A boy named Yi Junling opens his eyes and is stunned. To his own amazement, he has become a decrepit old man. The swans, who live in the eastern region, are genuinely perplexed. Where did humans even come from in their area? Junling stares at his reflection in the lake and refuses to believe his eyes. How did this happen? He was just dozing off in math class just a minute ago. The guy was 6 feet tall. He didn't have a girlfriend yet. He had a wonderful student life looming ahead of him. And then, lo and behold, he suddenly looked like some old man. Lin decides he's not going to put up with this. Since he was thrown into another world, this old geezer must be a hidden master. And he dives into someone else's memories. The past reveals. The world is called Kunlun, and cultivators rule here. The previous owner of the body, Yi Junling, possesses exceptional talent and reached the golden core stage even in his youth. It is for this talent that he is appointed head of the soaring peak of Zhuantianzong, one of the 6 great sects of the wild region of the Eastern Realm. But while clearing out heretical cultivators, he is caught off guard, his dantian is broken, and all his strength evaporates, leaving the master an ordinary man. He spends the next few decades in deep apathy, sitting as a recluse on a mountain and completely ignoring the outside world. 10 years have passed since that day. Lin draws a somber conclusion. Standing before him is just an ordinary mortal, and judging by his age, the end could come at any second. A great scenario! He just got here! But then, web novels come to mind. Reading experience tells me if there's a teleportation, there's bound to be a bonus. So there's still a chance. All that's left is to find it. Lin takes matters into his own hands and commands the system. Dad is in place, so let him jump out quickly. The response was silence. No structure. Lin wondered, is she playing hide and seek? Let her come out already. Then Lin changes tactics. He falls to his knees and repents, saying he was wrong, just joking, and expects at least a word from the system. And suddenly it dawns on him. What if this isn't a system at all? Maybe it's all about the ring with the old man's spirit, and he'll have to pretend to be weak too. Lin tightens the ring, peers in, and calls out to the old healer. Is he here? The answer is deathly silence again. His nerves are getting the better of him. He's yelling at the old man not to hide. Lin knows for sure that he's here. Throwing the ring to the ground, he raises his cane to the sky, and the world around him suddenly changes in an instant. Lin shows no signs of stopping and unleashes a string of choice curse words. After such compliments, the system immediately announces, excessively harsh words have been detected. The system is activated automatically, and the owner is asked to use more polite language. Lin beams. Finally, she's arrived. And he admits, yes, it turned out ugly. It's just that he was starting to think he'd gotten into history without any abilities at all. The system apologizes. You see, it was fast asleep and only woke up now. As compensation for the inconvenience, the owner is entitled to a starter kit. Should I open the gift? Lin waves her hand. Open it already. The gift is unwrapped, and the system congratulates. The owner gains the special ability, meeting strength, becomes stronger. Encounter any higher level opponent, and Lin immediately and permanently gains a level higher cultivation. No side effects. Lin is dejected. He's just a normal person now. What if an immortal swoops in? The system assures him, there's no deception, let him test it out. It'll all work. Lin is blossoming. If this is true, he'll become invincible. He'll be able to stay one step ahead of everyone forever. The old man becomes curious. Why should he cultivate at all? And then the system rolls out a polite reminder. Exactly 1 hour remains until his natural death. How can I die already? So I need to get down the mountain immediately and find someone to fight with. Strength will prolong life. Now it's clear why the old man sat on the mountain all these years. And now he's been dragged into this mess. Then a kind reminder pops up. 35 minutes until death. Lin goes cold. Will he really not make it? But suddenly, Lin looks at the mountain and sees a huge storm approaching. What is it? A swarm of monsters? And in the very heart of this terrible storm, right inside the cloud, stands the head of the sect, the very same one who retired from business many years ago. The leader looks his enemies in the face and asks, "Who dared to do this? Who dared to challenge Xuan Tianzong?" Then an eagle man appears from the magical shell and, looking at Xuan Tianzong's people, mutters, "Creatures." What, you weren't expecting this? The Demon King of Monsters is still alive and will slaughter them all today. The leader squints at the enemy. Is he the vile creature here? He once carried out a massacre in the state of Li, and the leader personally seriously wounded him and threw him off a cliff. So he survived, and still dares to come with vengeance? Of course, only he could have brought this pack of beasts here. The Demon Monster King laughs in response, and, inflating his power, asks, "Is this enough?" The head is dumbfounded. Has he broken through the barrier and entered the embryonic soul stage? The warrior nearby immediately panics. What should they do? They're no match for such a powerful opponent. The leader turns around. Giving up without a fight is not an option. If so, they will fight to the end, defending Xuantian. The demon, the monstrous king, only mocks. He will kill all the stinking Taoists. And so the war begins. The people of Xuantian against the clan's enemies. But the monsters are so powerful that the warriors can barely stand. Lin watches from below and screams, "Someone hit him already!" Then the system comes into play. 30 minutes until death! Lin is nervous. Time is running out, and these fighters are too far away and simply can't hear him. He climbs up the ladder, but his back is giving out terribly. He definitely won't have time to go down. There's only one option left. The demon, the monstrous king, shouts at the people. "Weaklings! If this is all they can do, their lives will end today." He, the demon king, will show them the full power of the embryonic soul, and, having poured out energy from the body, he will unleash it on the enemies. One blow, and all the warriors are down. No one even has time to counter it. The wounded groan, and the leader gloomily admits, nothing can be done. The gap between the golden core and the embryonic soul is enormous. The demon, the monstrous king, laughs. Who else will dare resist? Let them say goodbye to their lives. And suddenly Lin climbs up the mountain and yells at the Demon King, "Look here!" And don't look around, they're talking to him. A demon, a monstrous king, flies up to the old man. Are you tired of living? He even allows himself to insult him? Lin begs the huge bird. Come on, attack! He's standing there, waiting patiently. Lin is glad he made it in time. From the old man's memories, he learned about the loudspeaker in the house. It runs on a chi crystal. Without it, everything would be lost. The Demon Monster King snorts. This is the first time he's seen such an old, insolent fellow. Lin retorts, "Well, now I see him." The leader and his men look at the mountain. Could it really be Elder Brother Ye? The girl gasps. Unbelievable. The very same legend of the soaring peak. The warrior is perplexed. He hasn't interfered in anything for decades. Why did he suddenly show up here? The leader suggests, perhaps he wants to contribute. It's just a shame he was caught off guard once, and his power faded, leaving him a helpless old man. The demon king of the beasts overhears their conversation. This Ye Ling is teasing the king of the demon beasts? He's simply seeking death. So this is that same old useless junk, the king of the demonic beasts clarifies. Lin calls the bird grandson. He'll gobble him up like a quail even without cultivation. Man, let him come. And then the system announces, 10 seconds until death. Lin looks at this slow, chatty, overgrown chicken and realizes, it looks like he'll die without a fight at all. The system counts down the seconds until his death. And in the last seconds, the king of the demonic beasts attacks. If the old man wants to die so badly, he will crush him to dust. Lin rejoices. His cherished wish has finally been fulfilled. And the old man's eye suddenly switches on and begins calculating some data. The system immediately reports, an enemy attack at the initial stage of the embryonic soul has been detected. the meeting force ability is triggered. The old man grows stronger and gains a mid-level embryonic soul. Lin begins to evolve right there on the spot. Lin examines her fiery body. There's her embryonic soul. The system proudly replies, "How could it be otherwise? She's a professional." Lin instantly extinguishes the bird's attack with his fire technique. Now he suddenly doesn't want to die. The Demon Beast King's eyes widen. What's going on here? The leader and his men cover their eyes. What a terrifying aura. And the girl whispers, "Is Ye's younger brother still alive?" And suddenly, before our eyes, Lin transforms from an old man into a young warrior, radiating mighty strength. Lin states, "Here it is, the power of the embryonic soul, the pinnacle of combat power in the human world." It truly looks terrifying. The demonic Beast King doesn't believe it. Is he also on the embryonic soul? And even stronger than him. The leader and the others are completely stunned and ask themselves, is this even possible? Lin is the bearer of an embryonic soul. So all these years, he's only been pretending to be broken. On the outside, he's a mere mortal. But in reality, he's long since quietly ascended to the level of a fetal soul. So, it turns out that little brother Lin is the boss here. The warrior adds, "Embryonic soul. You can count those on your fingers in the entire wild region." And now Zhuan Tianzong has found his master. The Demon Beast King suddenly remembers his manners. He addresses Lin as respected Taoist and mumbles that it was just a misunderstanding. He would, they say, settle the differences with his sect, and later, if the opportunity arises, pay a courtesy visit. Lin bends his fingers. He destroyed the foundation of his Zhuan Tianzong sect, killed a bunch of its disciples. And now this is called a misunderstanding? The system congratulates you on your first acquired power and randomly grants you a divine technique, the Great Void Finger that binds the heavens. Lin wonders, could this really be the same Shaolin Z technique? And asks the bird, if his entire clan and family were slaughtered and then told it was a misunderstanding, would he believe it? The demonic Beast King is hesitant. The Taoist strength is slightly superior to his, but the difference is small. Does Ling really want to fight to the death? Lin replies, if they don't touch him, he doesn't touch anyone. If they offend, he'll destroy. And to reach the level of an embryonic soul, this monster must have killed a mountain of people. There will be no forgiveness. The king of demonic beasts listens to this and snaps back. The people themselves forced him to do this. Now he'll burn his inner pearl, but he'll definitely finish off the old man. Lin decides not to delay and kill this bird beforehand. Having vented his anger, he tosses at the bird, "You know no bounds!" and launches a great empty finger, fettering the heavens. Seeing the shell of energy, the king freezes at what he sees and realizes that he has already lost. He instantly changes his tune. He shouts at Lin that he'll give him his wife and renounce his tribe. He's only just reached the point of becoming a fetal soul and doesn't want to die. But Lin doesn't care about his concert. He doesn't stop the attack and carries it through to the end. Catching the smell of fried wings, the king's remaining warriors shout, "The ruler is dead! We must run quickly!" But Lin has no intention of letting them go. Where are they going? And, releasing a bloody technique, he covers them with a deadly liquid. After the victory, Ling shakes himself off. Those stinking birds will no longer bother Zhuan Tianzong. The leader looks at his younger brother Yi. This time, they owe him everything. And he asks for forgiveness. He thought his brother's abilities were destroyed and he was broken. But he went and broke through to the embryonic soul. But then a girl comes up. What nonsense! Let them take a look at Yi's younger brother. Does he look downhearted? Zhao Dezu, the head of Changjian Peak, agrees. Indeed, junior brother Yi has always kept a low profile, quietly protecting their sect. Lin applauds silently. Well done. Everyone's imagination is in perfect order. And it's convenient. No explanation required. Suddenly, warriors rush up to report to the sect's sovereign. Disaster! The Fenglei sect has suddenly seized their minds and spirit veins, and many of the disciple guards are dead and wounded. The leader is shocked by the news. He can't believe it. His relationship with Feng Lei was already strained. But to dare to do something like this? Without these spiritual veins, their cultivation paths will be cut short. They're doomed. He's about to lead his disciples to reclaim resources and asks junior brother Ye. What will he say? Lin recalls, Feng Lei is one of the 6 major sects of the Wild region. Conflicts with them did occur, but within the bounds of propriety, and they attacked now. That means they took advantage of the monster invasion to stab us in the back. There's no limit to their treachery. The system immediately intervenes. The daily registration quest is open. Check in at Fenchi's domain, and the reward will be unimaginable. Lin grins. Another mission. With his ability to meet strength grow stronger, it's time to visit their lair and cause a massacre. Lin takes everything upon himself. Let the others act according to their plans, and he will go straight to the Feng Lei sect and tear it out by the roots. The leader is amazed and happy. This is very good. Junior brother Ye is damn powerful. Ling immediately leaves to deal with the problems. The leader asks thoughtfully, how many years have passed since Xuan Tianzong was so powerful? Zhao answers the sect leader honestly. They've never really been particularly strong. But with peak leader Ye, they might become the first of the 6 sects in the Wild region. Meanwhile, in the Feng Lei sect, one of the guys is bragging. He didn't expect everything to go so smoothly. They lured that monster to Xuan Tianzong, waited for the right moment, and took over all their spiritual veins. The second brother figures. They will soon become the main sect of the entire Wild region. But won't that monster attack them too? The third brother is surprised. Hasn't he heard? A powerful guest from the Yuhua sect arrived in Feng Lei today, so there won't be any problems. Feng Lei sect leader Chen Yunhai asks Elder Mu, is it true that his son Chen Xiao has shown himself to be a brilliant figure in the Yuhua sect and has already been accepted as a personal disciple by a certain lord? Elder Mu confirms to Mr. Chen. He came from Qingzhou precisely for this reason. His son was noticed by Gui Yang, who taught him the highest Tao. The boy's future is limitless. The head beams. Excellent. This means his son has the makings of an immortal. Another distinguished guest chimes in. Let the Lord head of the sect accept his congratulations. Elder Mu immediately takes out a gift. A first-class Huayan pill that the headman's son asked him to give to his father. Chief Chen gasps, Huayang pill! The crowd around him murmurs, congratulations to the sect leader! With this pill, he'll definitely penetrate the embryonic soul. The Chen chief melts. His son hasn't forgotten about him. So, today is a double celebration. Regarding that monster, Chief Chen promises Elder Mu that he will settle this matter as he goes along, and he warmly thanks. If the Elder hadn't accurately determined the monster's level, they might have missed the chance to take away Xuan Tianzong's resources. And right on those words, an explosion thunders. One of the warriors screams. Someone has broken through all their defensive formations. Ling emerges from the smoke. So this is what the Feng Lei sect is like? The leader immediately barks. Who are you? Are you bored with life, barging into the main hall of the Feng Lei sect? Lin doesn't intend to hide anything and introduces himself. He came specifically to them, to the Feng Lei sect. The warriors whispered in shock. What a powerful aura he has. This is the embryonic soul stage. The system reports to its master. He has arrived at the Feng Lei sect's registration point. Congratulations! The seal of the human overlord and the great void technique have been obtained. Lin is pleased. Familiar abilities again. Meanwhile, Chief Chen wonders, is this guy really using a fetal soul? Feng Lei didn't attack such powerful people. Although his name seems vaguely familiar, Chief Chen politely inquires, what is the reason for the esteemed Taoist's visit? Lin replies, are they playing dummies? Haven't heard of him? He's Yiling, the leader of the floating peak of Xuan Tianzong. They conspired with the monstrous king and attacked his sect's domain. The punishment is simple. From this day forward, the Feng Lei sect ceases to exist. Chief Chen's expression turns cold. Yiling, that one. He was caught off guard once, and all his strength was gone. Where did he get his embryonic soul? And the leader puts 2 and 2 together. Since Ling is here, the Green Bird King is already dead. So that's how that damn Xuantianzong pulled it all off. Chief Chen turns to Elder Mu. What should they do in this situation? Inside, he is calm. As long as the Elder is with them, even if he is crushed 3 times on his embryonic soul, they will crush him like an egg on a stone. Elder Mu calls the boy a puppy and commands, "Get on your knees, break your own arms. Then, so be it, they'll spare you this miserable life." And he should hurry before he changes his mind. Lin squints. Who is he anyway, that anyone should bow to him? Elder Mu immediately impresses him with his aura. What a cheeky fellow it turns out. The warriors cringe. This is the stage of spiritual transformation. What terrible pressure. The leader is also certain. Since a spirit transformation master has taken over the matter, Yeling from Xuantianzong is finished. Chief Chen laughs and throws at Lina. He managed to survive last time, but today he won't leave. And when he dies, Xuantianzong will have no support left, and it can be crushed with one left hand. So let him quickly fall to his knees and beg for mercy. Maybe Elder Mu will at least leave the body intact. But Lin hadn't signed up for any commands and didn't waste any time. He decided to show what he could do, and Elder Mu agreed to the fight, not yet suspecting how it would end. Meanwhile, at Xuantianzong's spiritual vein, the leader and his team clash with the enemies and mow down almost all of them. The leader asks, "Is the Yuhua sect elder in Fenglei now?" The enemy laughs. Did he think without Yuhua's protection, they would have dared to so openly rob Xuantianzong, and with a monster to boot? The elder came to Fenglei because many years ago, the heir of their leader entered the Yuhua sect in Qingzhou and attracted great attention with his outstanding talent. Even he knows how they dealt with that monster, and he advises them to stop. Maybe then they'll be allowed to survive and serve the Fenglei sect. But the leader cuts the discussion short, ripping his head off with the words, "There's no time! We need to rush to the Fenglei sect immediately and rescue Peak Leader Ye." Su asks in surprise, "What if the head of Peak Ye is able to resist the Yuhua sect as well?" Zhao snaps, "Impossible! The Yuhua elders are, at the very least, a spirit transformation. Compared to them, a fetal soul is a mere mosquito. If necessary, he would give his life to ensure Yuhua spared Peak Headmaster Ye's life. After all, he was their hope." And in the main hall, Fenglei Ling is laughing at their words. Chief Chen is outraged, on death's door, and he's laughing. The boy was obviously already frozen with horror in front of Elder Mu, who had reached the stage of spirit transformation. With his pathetic abilities, he is not even worthy of giving shoes to Elder Mu. Elder Mu murmurs, "A minor cultivator from a wild region? And he dares to be impudent in his presence? His Xuantianzong is nothing more than an anthill. For the Yuhua sect, he's a mere speck of dust, easily wiped away. He himself is a non-entity, unworthy of attention, and since he had already angered him, even if he apologized on his knees, he would still destroy their Xuantianzong sect." At this point, Lin doesn't even bat an eyelid. Let him get started already, and don't drag it out. And even spirit transformation is nonsense. Such a tough guy. Let him go out and fight. Whoever runs away is the grandson. Elder Mu can't stand this humiliation and rushes into the attack with a cry. The kid wants to die! And Chief Chen is already rubbing his hands. After Yeling's death, Xuantianzong will still be theirs. If only he knew what would happen a second later. The system immediately reports, an attack by an enemy in the late stage of spirit transformation has been detected. The passive effect, meeting the force becomes stronger, is activated. The cultivation of the peak stage of the spirit transformation is obtained. Lin greets the old man with new techniques and yawns. Is that all there is to it? Elder Mu is stunned. His attack is like a slap in the face. So, the boy is also undergoing a spirit transformation. Chief Chen screams, "How is this possible? Some run-down Xuantianzong? And suddenly, they have such a master?" Elder Mu hisses, "How treacherous this Xuantianzong is. they hid it all this time. Where in this impoverished, wild region would a local cultivator at the spirit transformation stage come from? And at its peak, no less. Even here, a single embryonic soul is enough to found a sect and sustain it for thousands of years. But spiritual transformation has never happened here. And the guy is so young. How is this even possible? Chief Chen tugged at the elder. What should he do now? Let him save the Feng Lei sect. Elder Mu calms him down. Don't panic. He shouldn't forget. He's from the Yuhua sect in Qingzhou. His immortal methods are incomparable to those here. Lin wonders, does he really think his technique is superior? And he demonstratively gives Elder Mu the middle finger. Elder Mu grows furious and shouts, "Nonsense! The caliber of their small sects cannot compete with the greatness of Yuhua. Now he will show him the highest technique of the earth." And he releases his green tree Tai Yi palm. The warriors look on with respect. What can you say? Yuhua's fame is well-deserved. Such earth techniques are powerful. After all, techniques are divided into mortal, spiritual, and mystical. In the wilderness, even the spiritual level is a treasure. But here, the earthly. Elder Mu condescends to the boy. To die at the hands of an elder is a great honor for a cultivator of his level. But Lin holds up 2 fingers, releases a stream of fiery energy, and shrugs. Minor tricks. And this is what the old man thinks he's bragging about? Without wasting any time, Lin uses his human overlord seal and, with one move, crushes Elder Mu's attack into dust. And above him rises his most powerful spirit of fire, sweeping away everything in its path with just one swing. People are stunned by what they see. What kind of technology is this? Is it really beyond the divine level? Lin continues his techniques and says, "The imprint will shine over the earth, and the ruler of people is adamant." Elder Mu is exhausted. This boy's strength is superior to his own. He can't handle such an attack. And Elder Mu turns to please. "Let him stop. Mercy!" Lin shrugs. So what if it's Yuhua? If they don't touch him, he doesn't touch anyone. If they offend him, he'll destroy them. If they dare to attack, he'll wipe them out. Elder Mu threatens. If he dies, the Ling sect will face total annihilation, and the culprit himself will suffer even more. Lin raises an eyebrow. Before his death, he still dares to threaten? Well, if that's the case, let him disappear. A fiery arrow flies straight into the elder's body and puts the finishing touches. At this point, Chief Chen is already on his knees. This is all a misunderstanding. They are ready to submit and serve him. They will follow the Lord and become his servants. Lin snaps. They are unworthy even of being his dogs. Chief Chen clutches at his last trump card. His son, Chen Xiao, has the makings of an immortal and is the Lord's personal disciple in the Yuhua sect. He dares to offend him? Let him not make the mistake. Hearing of the immortal's potential, Lin smiles. Perfect. And he repeats once again. If he's offended, the enemy will be destroyed. Their Feng Lei attacked Xuantianzong first. He already said, today they will cease to exist. And he always keeps his word. Lin has no intention of taking pity on anyone here. He's demolishing every last house, including its inhabitants. Finally, Chief Chen spits out, his son will avenge today's blood grudge 1,000-fold. Lin looks at the fire and notices a box that has fallen from the flames. Lin chuckles. Well, he can wait. Let his son come and bring him more experience. But looking up at the sky, he sees a virtual nanny. And then the leader and his team arrive. Wonderful. The little brother is here and alive. Lin wonders, where else would he be? He said he was going to destroy Feng Lei. The leader grabs his hand. Incredible luck! He'd already heard that the Yuhua sect elder had arrived, but somehow it hadn't affected his brother, and they could still leave. Lin asks again, is he talking about that elder? So he's already killed him. The leader is stunned. He destroyed Elder Yuhua. He was in the spirit transformation stage. Su triumphs in front of the guys. Did you see that? She said Peak Leader Ye can handle this. The leader doesn't believe it. Is it really true? Little brother Ye has mastered the spirit transformation? Lin shrugs. In fact, he's undergoing the spirit transformation himself. Okay, we can dispense with unnecessary words. It's time to plunder Feng Li and put our resources to work. The leader agrees. That's right, time to move. The leader is still digesting the news. Junior brother Ye is at the spirit transformation stage. It's unbelievable. Then Zhao reports that he found an embryonic soul pill, apparently from the Yuhua sect. Lin orders. Give the pill to the sect leader. Let him quickly break through to the embryonic soul. This will strengthen Zhuan Tianzong. The head thanks his younger brother Yi, and suddenly the system announces, a suitable student has been found within a radius of 100, and it seems he's the head of a demonic cult, a true immortal. Accepting him as a disciple will bring unimaginable rewards. Lin is overjoyed. A new assignment, a disciple, and the head of a demonic cult of true immortal status, no less. And if you go and challenge him with his ability, he might immediately become immortal and invincible, not only in the wild region, but also in Qingzhou. Su suddenly becomes gloomy. They may have wiped Feng Lei off the face of the earth, but having quarreled with Yuhua, does Zhuan Tianzong even have a chance to survive in the eastern region? The leader nods. That's right. Yuhua's power is so great that they, Zhuan Tianzong, can't compete with it. He turns to Lin. He has incredible talent. He can't ruin his future here. It's better to leave the eastern region. And when Yuhua comes for answers, they'll simply sacrifice themselves. As long as he lives, Zhuan Tianzong still has a chance to continue. Zhao agrees. The sect leader is right. Su agrees. Yes, Peak Leader Ye is a natural-born genius. His death here would be a huge loss. The warriors also shout, it's true! Peak Master Yi will surely fulfill their hopes, and once again make Zhuan Tianzong's name famous throughout the world. And they will remain here and will stand firm to the last, without retreating. Let Peak Leader Yi calmly and boldly move toward his destiny. Lin is amazed. What unity this sect has. He thanks everyone for their support, but let them rest assured. If he's decided to do this, it means he's thought it through. Let him handle the rest. He'll handle it the way he wants. There's no way to negotiate with these guys anyway. He leaves the local affairs to the head of the sect. Let him handle them without haste. He has urgent matters to attend to, so he must take his leave. The leader watches as Ye's younger brother disappears into thin air and notes, it's the same every time. He wins, waves his sleeve, and leaves without leaving even a cloud. Meanwhile, something unbearable is happening in the purple bamboo forest. Bandits are chasing the girl, shouting, don't run away, let us enjoy you. But the girl turns out to be a guy, and she yells back, get out of here. How many times do I have to tell you, he's a man? But the decrepit old man is already drooling. Such a beautiful girl can't possibly be a man, and she shouldn't even try to deceive him. The boy grimly admits, it's true. The tiger descended onto the plain and became prey to the dogs. And he, mind you, is the head of the demonic cult of the central region. Having achieved true immortality, he founded Baihuo, a gigantic sect uniting 100,000 countries and millions of followers. But the enemies joined forces with the forces of the Holy Lands and launched a full-scale siege of Baihua. To escape, he had to sacrifice all his strength, and so he hides in this remote eastern region and still finds himself in trouble. And the old man keeps calling him beautiful. If he doesn't run faster, he'll catch her. The old man tires of chasing him and lets fly several swords, but the boy immediately turns around and responds with a shield of scarlet flame. But the old man's strength is greater. The shield doesn't work this time, and the guy gets injured. However, the old man himself is surprised. The foundation laying resisted his technique of 5 needles, shackling the origins. The level of the late golden core. Could it really be that a young talent from a major sect has gone wandering? No matter, we need to deal with him first. The old man uses his technique. He surrounds the guy with energy and places strange needles around him. Coming closer, he calls him beauty again. That's all. It's better for her to surrender. The old man grabs the guy by the face and, calling him a beauty again, demands that he not resist. His patience is not limitless. Let her come to terms with it. It won't take long. But the guy is tired of being known as a girl, and he bares his chest, and he yells at the old man. Let him open his dog eyes and finally understand. He is a man. The old man is stunned by what he sees. Is he really a man? Does that mean he was chasing him for nothing? The guy covers himself. Did you look closely? They're the same sex. Let him stop chasing you already. But the old man suddenly waves his hand. A man is not bad either. This is even better. Then the guy breaks down. He hits her with his technique and yells at the pervert. Hands off! He even dares to pick on men. And if the old man touches him, he would rather burn his inner pearl than humiliate himself in front of him. The old man is amazed. What kind of technology is this? How does laying the foundation create such large-scale formations? The guy's patience finally snaps. Calling the old man a damn dog, he declares, that's it, he's finished off. Having squeezed the flow of energy out of himself to the limit, he directs it straight at the old man, to burn him alive. The old man, seeing this right under his nose, gets scared and suggests discussing everything calmly. But the talk is over. The guy finishes the job and tries to finish off the old man. The old man doesn't have time to dodge and flies straight into the center of the stream. He tries to escape, but the chi is so strong that the pain is off the charts. True, the guy gets it too. He tells the old man, "You asked for it." What bad luck. Because of this mess, his pearl is almost broken. Now we urgently need to find a place for restoration and think through the next steps. He grumbles. The pervert didn't die in vain, clearly from a difficult family. And suddenly he feels someone's presence. Who's here? Another old man emerges from the forest. Don't worry, he's just here by chance. He has no connection with the pervert, and his preferences are normal. So you can breathe a sigh of relief. The guy politely concludes. Then he hopes to see her again someday. Until then, see you soon. But this old man turns out to be not so simple. He quickly approaches and says that, unlike that guy, he is much more interested in the guy's secret. The old man tries to grab him and look into his mind. He really wants to understand where he gets such powerful abilities from. The boy snaps back. Old bastard, taking advantage of someone else's weakness. A miserable death awaits him too. But suddenly the boy falls and thinks with horror. Will his rebirth really end right here? He can't accept it. In the midst of their fight, a man stronger than both of them combined flies overhead. Both immediately turn their attention to him. The old man instantly senses the stage of a spirit's transformation. He had no idea such masters existed in this tiny eastern region. Lin decides to slow down and examine the couple. The old man immediately whines, "Mercy!" In gratitude, he'll give in the guy and leave. But Lin is not in the mood for chatter. He hits them with a beam of chi and drops them. Such worthless people don't deserve to live. The old man doesn't even have time to notice the beam piercing his heart. He certainly wasn't expecting such a turn of events. The guy is shocked. First he caught the Golden Core Master, now he's caught the spirit transformation. Is it really true that fate is unavoidable today? Lin immediately starts fiddling with the system. Is she telling me this is the head of a demonic cult? And a true immortal at that? The system. A mere weakling laying the foundation. Lin, is she kidding me? The system stands firm. There is no deception. This man was indeed a true immortal and the head of a demonic cult. His power had simply weakened, and it activates the Eye of Insight. Analysis is ready. The guy's name is Hong Qian-Ye. Initial foundation stage. Talent. Divine Fire King. Lin runs through the descriptions and sees for himself. Everything matches. Snow-white skin, refined features, long hair. Many women would envy such a look. Anyone could mistake the gender here. Hong is wary. Why is Lin looking at him so strangely? Does he really prefer men too? But Lin considers his own. Yes, the guy is currently laying the foundation. But with such talent and experience, Regaining his former strength is a piece of cake. Taking him on as an apprentice is a sure bet. Lin announces, "The boy has exceptional bone structure. He's a true talent. From this day on, he'll take him on as an apprentice. All that's left is for him to accept." Hong is stunned. This stranger wants to take him on as an apprentice? And he suspects he's probably also after his secret. And indeed, neither this guy's artifacts nor his luck could compare to his own. With such cultivation, he wouldn't even be allowed into the back alleys of the Hong sect. Some kind of transformation of the spirit? And into his teacher? That's even a little naive. Lin notices, what's with that face? Judging by everything, he's not particularly eager to be a student. In fact, Hong believes that Lin is unworthy of being his teacher. But he doesn't have the strength right now to assert his rights. While there's still a chance for survival, there's no point in rushing. Once he regains his strength, he'll turn the situation around. He kneels down. Disciple Hong greets his mentor. To be a disciple of such a master is the greatest honor of his life. Inside, he doesn't care. This is all a show for the public, a pure formality. The time will come, and he will definitely regain his lost dignity. Lin accepts him. Fine, let him rise. From this day on, he will call him Xiao Hong. Hong doesn't like the name at all, but for his own salvation, he obediently answers the mentor. I agree. Lin, however, sees right through his hypocrisy. So what? With the ability to meet strength, become stronger, no betrayal is a threat to him. The system is right there. It congratulates the owner on a completed task. The reward is the automatic training function. Lin considers. Now he can become stronger simply by lying down. But the system continues. He receives a coffin, the seals from which are removed as the owner's level increases. Currently, it's a level 3 artifact. Lin recalls that abilities and techniques have stages of development. Basic level, partial mastery, complete mastery, and mastery. And at each stage, the power and effect can increase tenfold, even 100-fold, the system explains. This ability buries heaven and earth, destroying all life. The Master's Apprentice's talent has also been discovered. The system offers a free upgrade package, and as a reward, the fire technique 3000 Flames. And on top of that, another reward is the Fire Source Pill, to restore the fire root and form an unrivaled foundation. Lin understands. This coffin, burying the heavens, is clearly created to defy the laws of the universe. It's even interesting to see what power it will achieve as it levels up. These are rewards worthy of a great traveler from the Celestial Empire. And Hong sees how proud his teacher is. Of course, he's acquired such a talented student. Well, well, his retribution is just around the corner. Lin squints. Why is he hiding his emotions? He probably thinks the teacher is unworthy of being his mentor. Hong denies it. His mentor misunderstood him. It's just his usual expression. But to himself, some stage of spiritual transformation, and already teaching him about life? Lin sighs. It seems his authority won't be recognized without a gift. Here's a technique to mark the beginning of his apprenticeship. Let him study diligently. Hong accepts everything and thanks his mentor. And in his head, well, let's see what kind of nonsense this provincial spirit transformation master has to offer. He reads the title of the book, 3000 Flames of Fire. His first thought is that it's too pretentious, but upon closer inspection and discerning the true name, he is stunned. All he can think is, how is this even possible? He instantly understands that his own wild flame technique, with which he achieved immortality, is considered the highest fire technique of the central region. But next to the 3000 flames, it's pure trash. This technique turns his entire understanding of fire magic upside down. It's the level of an immortal, maybe even a legendary saint. Hong realizes that with this technique, his strength will grow incredibly. Simply returning to true immortality is no longer enough for him. Lin remarks, judging by his face, the gift went down well? Hong turns around and thanks him. The technique proved extremely useful, but he wonders to himself, where did this mentor get such luck? to stumble upon such a rare technique. But Lin doesn't stop. Since Hong has mastered the technique, here's a pill to help him. Hong is stunned. The source of the fire? And all this, for him? Hong knows. The fire source is a divine pill for fire cultivators. Its effects are incredible, and its value is so great that even immortals fight for it. But how did some master of the spirit transformation stage acquire such things? Even in his prime, he couldn't have even dreamed of such things. Lin narrows his eyes. Does he doubt his mentor's gifts? Hong shakes his head. Absolutely not. Being his student is the greatest honor. Hong convinces himself that Lin simply doesn't understand how rare these techniques and the pill are. He must have accidentally unearthed them from some ancient heritage. The main thing now is to keep his composure. But he still doesn't know who he's really dealing with. But Lin saw that this demonic cult leader was constantly making things up, changing his expression. He turned out to be a funny student. Lin told him to take the pill and he would guard him himself. The boy agreed and thanked his mentor. Hong immediately began using the pill. After eating it, he immediately began to improve his levels. Lin knew that the stages were initial foundation laying, middle, late, peak, full mastery, golden core, and others. And this guy really is a true immortal. Reproducing powers. Half an hour and he reached the embryonic soul. And that's a very good start. Hong also couldn't believe he'd broken through so quickly, and by returning to the central region, he would certainly wash away all his shame. After a while, Hong finished and told the teacher that he must have disturbed him. That was impolite of him. Lin replied that it was okay. It was time for them to return to the sect, and he would introduce him to his elders. In the evening, at the main hall of Zhuantianzong, people said that the head of Peak Ye was incredibly strong. He destroyed the embryonic soul with one finger, twice saved their land from complete destruction, and they even feel a little sorry that he didn't understand his power and become his disciple back then. He would have been a disciple of the soaring peak by now, and with his strength, his standards for students are surely high. And even they wonder who's a match for him. And at that moment, Lin returned home. People shouted that Peak Ye's leader had returned. Seeing another young man, they asked who was with him. They thought Hong was a beautiful girl. The warriors could not calm down and were talking about where such a beauty came from and why she was so close to the head of Peak E. Hong immediately noticed that this clan of cultivators was too weak. They weren't even fit to become servants in his Baihuo. The leader immediately greeted Ye's younger brother and asked who was with him. Lin introduced them and replied that he was his new disciple. The disciple should now greet the sect leader. The leader was shocked to hear about the student and made a strange face. Su was displeased. After all, the peak leader had taken such a beautiful girl as a student. Hong could no longer bear such insults and, approaching her, said that he was a man. Lin didn't like this and, slapping Huan on the back of the head, told him to control himself. This is his older sister, and he should apologize immediately. Hong approached her and told her he was asking for forgiveness, that it was his mistake. And in his mind, he told himself he needed to be patient for a little while, and when he reached the stage of spiritual transformation, he would take revenge on him for this humiliation. Lin suddenly approached and said that since everyone had met, he would take Hong to the floating peak. The leader replied that he too was pleased to meet him and wouldn't hold him up. After they left, the headmaster said that Peak Ye's headmaster had accepted a cultivator at the embryonic soul stage as his disciple. This was unbelievable. Su replied that in one day, junior brother Ye brought so much amazing news to Xuantianzong. Arriving at the peak, Lin opened the door and said that Hong was his first disciple, so he could choose any room on the peak. No need to be shy. Hong was shocked and asked his mentor, "What kind of a hole is this? Even the servants' quarters in Baihuo are 100 times more luxurious." He even thought he might have to live in such a place. But Lin told him to remember that only the weak whine. The strong learn to adapt. A cultivator should be above such things. If it's dirty, let him clean it up himself. Hong said he'll be patient. With his speed of development, everything will change soon. Just let Lin wait. At this time, a message arrived in the southern region of the Yuhua sect to the leader, who was apparently not in a good mood. In the Hall of the Heirs, Guiyang Zhongzhe held a letter in his hands that was written on a board, and out of misfortune, he broke it with his own hands. The servant told the master that he was asking for forgiveness. It was he who asked Elder Mu to take the pill to his father, and after Elder Su's death, he worries that his father and his sect might suffer. He wants to personally verify the situation. Gui Yan asked Xiao if he knew why he was accepted as a disciple. The boy replied that it was because of his solar immortal body and his potential for immortality. Gui Yan said that was only part of it. The second reason was that he saw enormous ambition in him. His desire for power should not be limited by family ties. There's little time left before the competition for the heir's apprentices. He must prepare. Let him defeat the other disciples and become the best, and the sect will increase its support for him. This is his only chance. And none. But he doesn't want to hear it. He'll send people to the eastern region to check out the situation. His task is to focus on victory. Xiao replied to the master that he understood everything and would not let the master down. The next day, Lin was resting on the floating peak and asked his student if he was ready. He'd been waiting for him for a long time. Hong prepared the food and told the teacher that he was ready and would bring everything now. Hong noticed that his mentor was only thinking about food. How could this spirit transformation master even think about food? Yesterday he was lecturing him on adaptation, and today he was enjoying himself. Lin started tasting everything and said, "This meat, these beans, they're simply wonderful. It's delicious, and the spices from the system are a masterpiece." Lin told his student to try it too, and not be shy. Hong told his mentor that he had long ago reached a state where he could stop eating. Food no longer interested him. Lin was surprised and asked him why he was refusing his mentor. Cultivation requires enjoyment too. Let him try at least a little. Hong told his mentor that he'd only try it because he insisted. But he could see that Lin was just an old man, and he couldn't understand what was so special about the food. But Hong, having tried a piece, was delighted and felt that it tasted incredible. It was so delicious that he hadn't felt such happiness since childhood. Lin saw his face and asked why he was crying. Hong remembered how, as a child, he was always hungry and dreamed of tasting meat at least once. And when he first ate it, it was a joy beyond words. But ever since he embarked on the path of cultivation, he'd forgotten what it was like to simply live and enjoy simple things. And his mentor was right. If cultivation deprived him of simple joys, what was the point, he thought. Lin noticed his disciple had broken through again. Embryonic soul, initial stage, middle, late, peak, full spirit transformation. And this guy even managed to level up just by eating food. He's got incredible talent. Hong opened his eyes and noticed that he had started to break through again, and he didn't even know it. Lin congratulated him on his spirit transformation. His strength was now almost at the level of his mentor. Hong hadn't even expected the transition to the spirit transformation stage to happen so quickly. And it seemed it was time for him to end this strange discipleship relationship. After all this, Lin told the student that he had eaten the meat, raised his level, and now let him come and massage his shoulders. Hong got angry and thought to himself that he was already in the spirit transformation stage, and he was still trying to command him, and some kind of spiritual transformation is trying to tell him what to do. And now the day has come when he will show his mentor who's who here. After trying to attack his mentor, a servant suddenly came and said that he had a report to the head of Peak Yi. The servant told Peak Head Ye that the sect leader was asking him to come to the assembly hall. He said there was an important matter to discuss. Lin was surprised to hear that it had only been one day and he already had a new job. Hong was angry, having missed such a chance. But Lin was always full of vulnerabilities. He still had time to get his revenge. After flying away, Lin told the student that he would go for now. His massage technique was excellent, and when he returned, he should come and massage his feet. Hong shouted after him, asking his mentor how he dared treat him like that. He should have killed him right then and there. In the assembly hall, people were already at a loss as to what to do. One asked, Is this perhaps a sign that the heavens want to destroy Xuantianzong? Lin came down to greet the leader. He asked what had happened this time. Another threat? The leader got straight to the point and replied that the matter was as follows. Several years ago, the state of Wei came under the protection of their sect. Recently, a message had arrived from there asking for assistance. They reported that strange events were occurring across the country, resulting in mass deaths. The corpses looked horrific, their blood completely drained. These phenomena are becoming increasingly frequent, covering vast territories. Some cities with populations of 1 million have become completely deserted. He assumed it was the work of demons and sent his disciples there to investigate. However, none of them have returned yet. This morning, a new report came in. The situation has worsened, and the phenomena are spreading to neighboring countries. If this continues, the wild region will descend into chaos. Besides, their sect would lose potential disciples, which would weaken it. Lin asked, was it that serious? Had no one seen who was behind this? Su replied that perhaps those who witnessed it were already dead. If the situation continued to escalate, Xuantianzong might fall into decline. The wild region is already poor in cultivators. Even the nascent soul stage is rare there, and the state of Wei is located on its outskirts. But Lin asked what kind of enemy was so powerful that they hadn't even received a response from the disciples. And suddenly, the system ordered the master to find the source of the problem in the state of Wei and eliminate it. And after completing the task, he received an incredible reward. Lin was delighted and responded to the system that he had arrived just in time. Lin told the sect leader that he understood. And since the phenomena had begun in the state of Wei, that meant the source of the evil lay there. He would go himself. The leader replied that this was very good. And Ye's younger brother always acts decisively. He's confident he can handle it, and he expects good news from him. Lin didn't waste any more time and immediately flew off on his mission. The leader suddenly said he hadn't even finished speaking. Su was surprised that Peak Yi's leader was so decisive. Zhao suddenly asked if he could handle such a mysterious threat. Su asked him in return, did he doubt it? There was nothing in the wild region that could defeat a master of the spirit transformation stage. The leader overheard their conversation and said it was true. If he couldn't do it, the wild region would truly perish, and they should continue training and live up to their younger brother's expectations. Lin immediately took Hong with him, and the two of them arrived at the eastern part of the wild region on the border of the state of Wei. Hong saw that after the meeting, the mentor had immediately headed to that poor state, but he would still find a way to deal with him. Upon entering the village of Taohua, they stopped on a mountain, and Lin said he thought bandits were robbing the village and that they needed to intervene. The village chief of Taohua told the esteemed hero that their village was poor. They only had chickens, ducks, cows, and sheep. And if the hero needs something, then let him take it. But he must spare innocent people. The leader of the Black Wind gang began to laugh and replied that he didn't need their animals. He only needed them, the pathetic little humans. He hit the old man on the head and ordered them to obey, and perhaps they would die without pain. The bandits started shouting at their own people to step aside because the leader was using his technique. The gang leader used his terrifying technique and aimed it straight at the people. People were very scared and asked for someone to save them and not kill them. Hong suddenly didn't expect this and said he seemed to recognize this technique. In his mind, it resembled a technique from the central region, but that person died when the Holy Lands destroyed it. Lin saw his face and asked if he knew this technique. Hong replied that he didn't, and that he just thought it was strange. But Lina didn't like this, and, calling him a puppy, asked how he spoke. Hong knew that if his guesses were true, and this was his work, they were in big trouble. People were panicking at what was happening, and shouting that they didn't want to die. But Lin decided to intervene and grabbed the bandit from behind, telling him to stop. The gang leader turned around and, raising his fist, asked who he was, and how dare he interfere in his affairs. But Lin, seeing his fist attack, turned around and attacked him with a beam of fire. Lin told him to calm down, as they needed to discuss something. The gang leader's warriors were surprised, as he was slightly injured. The gang leader immediately sensed and told the boy that he was a master of the spirit transformation stage, and since that was the case, he was asking for mercy. Lin ordered him to reveal his origins. The gang leader replied that he had been a palace guard for the state of Wei, but one day he had seen something he shouldn't have. He was sentenced to death, and after that, he fled the palace to save himself. Lin asked him what he saw, and where did he learn this technique? The gang leader replied that he had noticed the crown prince secretly visiting the mountains behind the palace, but had not dared to check. He'd received this technique from a mysterious organization while he was on the run. Their origins were unknown to him. Lin asked, "Did they just teach him that?" The leader looked at his men and replied that they had asked him to use this technique to absorb human blood to increase his strength, and he did it for survival. He knows nothing more. Lin thought for a moment and said it looked like a huge organization was behind this. Their actions might be connected to all these strange phenomena. He asked Hong what he thought. At that moment, Hong thought the teaching methods were too reminiscent of a single person. Could he really still be alive? And why was he here, in this wild region? But then he told his mentor that he didn't know. But he knew that if that person was behind this, Lin wouldn't be able to cope at the spirit transformation stage, and the state of Wei would be his end. Lin suddenly decided to check if the bandit had told them everything. Using his technique, he entered his subconscious. Lin looked at all his memories and said he hadn't lied, but he'd left something important out. Now they needed to go to the Wei Imperial Palace immediately. But Hong decided not to leave any evidence behind, and used a finger attack to burn all the bandits alive. Seeing his mentor's face, he asked, "Did his student do something wrong? Didn't those bandits deserve to die?" In fact, Hong had endured his humiliation for so long that it was heavenly mana to vent his anger on someone. Lin replied that no, and he had done well. The people rejoiced too, shouting that the two immortals who had driven out the villains and carried out the will of heaven would forever remain in the hearts of the villagers. At this time, Emperor Wei said that in recent years, the population of Wei had decreased by a third. In a little while, his entire country would be destroyed by this darkness. He even wondered if Xuan Tianzong's masters would be able to help them. Suddenly, the emperor's daughter ran in and said that she saw two immortals. They were flying here. The emperor said that these were certainly the masters from Xuan Tianzong, and let all the ministers go with him to meet them. Standing over the city, Wei Ling asked his student how he felt about such a spectacular entrance. Hong replied that he was wise and that it was impressive, but in his head, he wished his mentor's death. And he was prepared to watch him wriggle out of it if these forces found out about him. Just don't let him ask for mercy afterwards. The emperor greeted them and said he welcomed the masters. Lin introduced himself and replied that he was the head of the soaring peak of Xuantianzong, and he came to help them eliminate the threat. And they no longer need fear. The emperor said that he, on behalf of the Wei clan, expresses his gratitude to them, and if they have any wishes, let them all speak up. They will fulfill them. Lin said they should arrange a resting place for him and the student. The emperor replied that there was no problem. They should follow him, and he would show them everything. At that moment, a scout was watching them. The scout said that there was a certain head of Xuantianzong Peak, and he was just pretending to be powerful. And it's a good thing they need sacrifices for his master to reach the peak of his spirit transformation. And they arrived just in time. Arriving in his quarters, Hong saw that his mentor, who had just looked so dignified, was now so careless and lazy. How on earth had he even reached the stage of spirit transformation, he wondered. And with this approach, he would soon surpass him in level, making it easier for him to eliminate him. At that moment, Lin realized that the student's cunning plans would sooner or later backfire on him, and his main mistake was that he chose him as his target. And Lin told the student that he was probably interested in how he was training. Let him bring water so he can wash his feet, and if he feels comfortable, he will teach him his methods. Hong got angry and asked him what he'd said. He thought some master from a backwater was trying to teach him cultivation. Even immortals had once learned from him. And if we're talking about mentoring, he's more like its progenitor. Lin asked his disciple what he was worth. Would he like to cultivate further? He was still young, and he wanted to continue relying on his elders. Hong understood that he was the greatest leader of the fire cult, and should wash the feet of someone like him. Perhaps it was time for him to end this farce. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door and said that he had important information about strange phenomena in the state of harmony. Lin stood up and asked who he was. The boy replied that he was the crown prince of the state of Wei, and his name was Zhao Heng. This matter concerned the fate of the entire country, and he begged them to listen. Lin told him to come in and what urgent business he had. Seeing the prince, he realized it was the same one who wanted to destroy those bandits. But he didn't look like what they said. Although, was that really true? Prince Heng told the immortals that there was a secret he had never told his father. He suspected that the source of evil in the state of harmony was connected to the mountains behind the palace. And recently, one night, he saw several flying demons secretly flying into the cave. And in recent days, court maids and eunuchs have been disappearing frequently. And he thinks it's connected. He's also heard of their fame, and even knows that only they can save the people of the state of harmony. And he asks them to destroy these flying demons in the mountains. Lin didn't currently sense any threat in the mountains with his divine consciousness. This man was either lying or had a defense that could pose a problem. Lin agreed and told him to show him the cave and see what the prince had planned. Prince Heng thanked the immortal and told them to follow him. With their help, they would surely rid the state of harmony of evil. Hong also longed for his death and then wanted to talk to him. Suddenly, on the way that night, the girl saw them and recognized her older brother, but she knew her older brother was usually a jerk. Their father had warned him more than once, but he hadn't changed his ways. He dared to secretly meet with the masters from Xuantianzong, and now she urgently needs to inform her father. Upon arriving at the mountains, Lin told the crown prince that this place didn't look like the home of flying demons, did it? The prince suddenly replied that they had arrived. Lin was delighted and said that they would finally see what he was hiding here. Prince Heng replied that he did not expect to deceive him, but he did not expect him to be so easily taken in and come here. And he's too confident in his own strength and doesn't understand that there's always someone stronger. Han pounced on him and asked if he wanted to stop them too. Does he think being the strongest master of the Xuantian sect is the same as being a god? And now he'll see if he can handle it, and this place will become his grave. Han suddenly turned to the elder and shouted for them to act immediately. The elders stepped into the light and immediately cast the five-fold god's sealing array. Suddenly, the blood cult elder told the Xuantian sect leader that he had recently become quite famous. He had defeated a nascent soul stage demon king. But in this five-fold god sealing array, even spirit transformation stage masters won't be able to escape. Prince Heng told them to act now. Just don't kill him right away. Their master needs him. But that girl in red simply needed to be drained of her strength, and he would like to enjoy her. Hong immediately turned around and asked him what he'd said. He didn't want to interfere, but he'd crossed all boundaries. He unleashed his fire powers and pounced. Han was shocked that Hong had destroyed the array with a single blow. How was that possible? The elder asked the prince's heir. Did the head of Xuantianzong Peak really bring a spirit transformation stage disciple with him? And his technique is clearly of the immortal level. Otherwise, it would not have been able to destroy their array. Han was furious and very angry with the elders. After all, he had hoped that they would bring glory to his master. Han decided to speak with the immortal and make a deal. After all, with his power, if they joined his master, a brilliant future awaited them. Hong was furious and asked how he dared to speak like that. And now he would make him suffer. Hong immediately attacked the prince who had framed them, deciding to burn him alive so he wouldn't bother them again. Han couldn't even do anything against them and ended up in the flames of fire that the immortal released. Lin watched all this and said he'd touched a nerve. He told Hong to stop and not kill him. He needed to ask him a few questions. Hong accepted his master's order and turned off the fire with a snap of his finger. Lin asked him who his master was. How had he forced him to serve him? Heng replied that his master was the greatest immortal from the central region. He had no equal, and he must submit to him immediately. Otherwise, when he appeared, the immortal wouldn't even beg for death. Lin asked in surprise. Submit? Even the prince wasn't considering it. And they'd see how long their master would remain hidden. he'd start picking off their men one by one. Lin used his attack beam, and using his power, he killed one of his men. The elder was shocked and said that this guy was also at the spirit transformation stage. How could a sect from a wild region have two such masters at once? After that, Lin said that the second man had arrived, and he killed him again with the beam. Having finished them all off, Lin said that only the prince remained. Han became frightened and asked the immortal to wait. Suddenly, after these words, a large explosion occurred in the forest, which was visible from the end of the world. On the way, the daughter asked her father what it was. What a terrible bloody light! The father told his daughter to go there quickly, and he hoped the craftsmen were all right. Hong immediately sensed a familiar aura and realized it was him. Although he could handle Yi Ling, meeting him was extremely unpleasant for him. Han rejoiced and said that the master was finally here, and his time had already come. From the red darkness emerged the leader of the bloody cult of the central region, the Stone Absolute. Lin asked him straight away, was he behind all these atrocities, masterfully pulling the strings? He'd thought he'd remain in his secluded hole. The Stone Absolute addressed them as cultivators from the wild region, and said that he admitted that he had some ability, but he was not yet worthy of fighting him. But an old acquaintance standing there piqued his interest. Hong called him a bloody demon, and said he didn't expect him to still be alive. Lin immediately wondered what connection Hong had with this guy. The Stone Absolute approached and asked in surprise, "Blood demon?" He hadn't been called that since he'd been surrounded by the holy lands of the central region 200 years ago, and I didn't expect him to still remember it. Hong replied that those who survived that great war would certainly not forget it. He knew it was the Stone Absolute, once the most powerful of the true immortals. He increased his power by absorbing the blood of people, taught his dark techniques to others, spreading evil and causing untold disasters. And then he absorbed the energy of his own followers, appropriating all their power for himself. His methods were so vile and his advancement so rapid that the greatest powers united to destroy him. Even he, a representative of the demonic path, was forced to participate in this war. His methods were so vile and his advancement so rapid that the greatest powers united to destroy him. Even he, a representative of the demonic path, was forced to participate in this war. Han suddenly said that if this news reached the central region, there would be a huge uproar, and the mentor was finally here. The guy started complaining and said that this woman wanted to kill him, and he must avenge her. But the Stone Absolute did not play with him any further, and used a laser eye attack that fried his brain. Seeing this, Hong said that he really was still the same disgusting, bloody demon. He had no mercy even for his disciples. The Stone Absolute replied that the apprentice was nothing. He could find another at any time, but if he wanted him dead, he wouldn't survive. Hadn't he yet understood how things worked here? Lin looked at them and said, "Now this is a different story, and there's really such drama here." Hong said he witnessed with his own eyes how his immortal body was destroyed by 4 divine artifacts, his blood drained to the last drop. How could he have survived? The Stone Absolute replied that these smug idiots had already separated a drop of his lifeblood and hidden it in a safe place. After his fall, this drop allowed him to be reborn, and as he sees it, he's found himself in a similar situation, and now he urgently needs to recuperate. And he's only in the early stages of his spiritual transformation. Let him give in already, and let his blood fill his body, and then they will be together forever. Hong told him he was crazy. Even in the central region, he rejected him time after time, and he still wouldn't calm down. And he really thinks that a spirit transformation peak cultivator can defeat him? The Stone Absolute replied that the more he resisted, the more aroused he became. For others, a battle with a power differential of several stages might still be possible, but for him, it was simply a fantasy. Hong asked him how he knew without trying it, and immediately applied the divine path of the 5 absolutes. The Stone Absolute was shocked by what he saw and responded with a bloody hand. Faced with attacks from both sides, a huge explosion occurred that even they did not expect such a turn of events. Stone Absolute wondered, how is this possible? This fire is so powerful. So a cultivator at the initial stage of spirit transformation could destroy his bloody hand. Where did he get such a technique, he wondered. But Hong told him the show was just beginning, and he used a fiery frost attack. But the Stone Absolute wasn't intimidated by this, and told Hong he was merely a loser. And in response, he used Blood Soul Absorption. Hong was so powerful that his attack hit the enemy directly. The Stone Absolute asked, "What kind of fire technique is this? Is it so ominous?" But he decided to act differently, and by releasing his technique, he allowed an ice attack. The Stone Absolute told Hong that he truly was the one he had once singled out. Impressive, even! And did he really receive an incredible inheritance during his escape from the Central Region? Or become a disciple of some powerful master? Hong replied that it had nothing to do with him. With this technique, he was already on his way to reviving his fame in the Central Region. He understood that even with the reinforcement of 3,000 fiery flames, even someone like him, who had once held the entire Central Region in fear, could not cope with him now. But he can't let him know that he got this technique from a spirit transformation stage cultivator from the Wild Region. The Stone Absolute said that if Hong allowed it to develop further, even he would not be able to control it. It's a shame, of course, but that's where it ends. And now he'll discover the true power of his immortal body. Meanwhile, in the city of the State of Harmony, people screamed in pain and begged for help. And they couldn't die. At that moment, the Stone Absolute was draining their strength. But in Wei's territory, the Stone Absolute was filled with strength and said that this feeling was wonderful. These people had become his food long before. If he so desired, he could instantly devour them, increasing his strength. Lin told Hong not to drag it out and finish it quickly. The student told his mentor not to tell him what to do, but Hong wondered how he'd ended up in this situation. He'd expected Lin to be unable to handle the blood demon and had asked for his help. Then he would have intervened with honor. And now the situation is such that it looks like even he won't be able to emerge from this fight unscathed. This is the energy of fusion. The Stone Absolute remembered that, relying on this body, he had once fought with powerful cultivators of both the righteous and demonic paths, and was not inferior to them in any way. And even several elders from the Holy Lands who used immortal artifacts were unable to completely destroy his immortal bloody body. And today, his immortal body has been restored by 70%. When he absorbs all the living creatures of the Wild Region, he will reach his full strength. And then, even the Central City will not be able to resist him. And he gave Hong a chance. If he got to this point, it's entirely his fault. So he's going to die. Hong saw that this scoundrel had reached the fusion stage. And now, things were bad. He immediately unleashed a violet flame that scorched the heavens. Hong did not slow down, and during the battle, using an attack, he made it so that the Stone Absolute knew what it was. Hong's attack was so successful that even the Stone Absolute was wounded. But the boy understood that fighting a stronger opponent under such conditions meant certain death. All that remained was to burn the Dantian and fight to the death, and immediately unleashed a heaven-piercing golden flame attack and a furious dragon flame. But the Stone Absolute said it was useless. There was no point in trying to resist. Its attacks were nothing more than a slight itch to his immortal body. Having stopped Hong's attack, he loaded his fists for a counterattack and said that this is the end. Hong saw that even his strongest technique couldn't hurt him. What should he do next, he thought. But he didn't lose heart and used a golden flame shield. But the Stone Absolute didn't slow down, and as he struck, he shouted for him to die already. The Stone Absolute dealt powerful blows and easily broke through Hong's defense. At that moment, the Emperor came to the mountain, and seeing how they were fighting, became very afraid for the immortal. The girl asked her father what kind of monster it was. How terrifying. The Emperor thought it was the source of the evil that had destroyed the State of Harmony. Even an immortal couldn't defeat it. Was his country doomed, he wondered? Standing up, Hong wondered if this was the end of his journey to immortality. He'd mastered this technique with such difficulty, but he couldn't just give up. And should he really ask this damned Ye Ling for help? and admitting that he's worse than him is already shameful. Besides, he's only at the peak of his spirit transformation, which isn't comparable to the fusion stage. Can he help in any way? The Stone Absolute said that they, cultivators, strive for eternal life. Since he doesn't want to continue his journey with him, he will die and become part of his body, and he will carry his will to the very end of the path. The Stone Absolute didn't stop there and launched its powerful attack. Hong thought it was all over. His mind was empty, and perhaps it was simply self-preservation, or an attempt to grasp at the last straw. Hong immediately turned to his mentor and begged him to save him. The Stone Absolute was shocked to hear about his mentor. He asked him if he had truly become someone's disciple, and suddenly Lin said that his student finally realized to whom he owed his knowledge. After all, he was his mentor. The Rock Absolute told Hong that he didn't expect that he would fall to such an extent that he would become the disciple of some lowly spirit transformation stage cultivator from the wild region. And this is a disgrace to the entire demonic path. Hong understood that even though Lin was constantly using him, he was still his savior. But now that he had stood against the Stone Absolute, he feared disaster awaited him. Lin asked if he could consider the enemy looking down on him. The Stone Absolute replied that an ant doesn't know how high the sky is, and in due time, he could have drowned him with a single spit. Hong apologized to his mentor and said he knew he was no match for the Blood Demon, but he still asked for help. If there was anything else he could do, he should just run away. Lin asked, "Run?" But that was impossible, and let him watch now as he killed him, for his student's sake. The Stone Absolute began to laugh, and asked the immortal who he wanted to kill. He thought he couldn't even withstand a single blow. What was he even hoping for? After delivering a powerful blow, he said that the immortal was just an ignorant upstart. Hong shouted at his mentor not to think about him. Just tell him to run away from here. It's all over now. But suddenly the system announced that the host had been attacked by an enemy during the initial fusion. The passive effect of encountering a strong one has been activated, becoming stronger. The host has reached the mid-stage fusion level, but Lin didn't talk for long, and, using his own, he easily destroyed the villain's attack. The Stone Absolute was surprised and asked, "What's going on? How is this even possible?" A spirit transformation cultivator. But realizing one thing, he said that the immortal was not a spirit transformation cultivator. He, too, had reached the fusion stage. Hong was also surprised and asked, "What?" This guy had been hiding everything so deeply, pretending to be a spirit transformation cultivator, but in reality, he was a powerful fusion stage master. Of course, it's no wonder he always provoked him like that. He relied on his fusion stage strength, and he almost fell for it. But it was also a good thing he didn't engage in open conflict with him then. The girl started screaming that the immortal looked so impressive, she wanted to be like him too. The emperor replied that his opponents were such a terrible monster, and even had an immortal body, but he was afraid that it would still be difficult. Lin also felt that same sensation of reaching the stage of fusion, and it seemed to him that with a single wave of his hand, he could destroy heaven and earth. The Stone Absolute said that even if they were both at the fusion stage, the difference between his technique and Blueberry's was like heaven and earth. And now he would show him what true strength was, and he released all the attack of his body. But Lin replied that he himself did not know what true power was. He used the seal of the human king. The Stone Absolute tried to touch his attack with a finger, when suddenly it exploded unexpectedly. The enemy was very surprised and asked, "What?" But Lin asked, "So this is what he calls a difference in technique?" His human king seal has reached the mastery stage thanks to the system, and is now much stronger than the first time. The Stone Absolute asked, "So what? He still couldn't kill him. He couldn't defeat him in a long battle. And his immortal body is truly impressive." Of course. Great. Time to try out his new move. Lin asked, "What about this?" And he used the technique that had already reached the stage of perfection. He used the Finger of the Great Void. During the attack, Lin said that one finger binds heaven and earth. The second finger destroys mountains and rivers. and the third finger destroys all living things. The fourth finger crushes the heavens. The Stone Absolute asked, "What is this anyway?" But he thought about it and said he took it back. He truly was worthy of fighting him, and he suggested they hide nothing anymore and settle everything with one blow. And he used the Blood Absolute, blood rushing into the living springs, and released chi energy from all his limbs. But Lin had already decided what to use against this attack, and with one blow, he defeated his opponent. The Stone Absolute asked who he was anyway, and why were such monsters found in this small, wild region? And could it really be that the talents of the outside world had become so powerful during his absence? Hong also noticed that his mentor was too powerful. Compared to this technique, even 3,000 blazing flames pale in comparison. Of course, it's no wonder he was so confident before, and it turns out he simply didn't consider him a worthy opponent. Lin introduced himself and said he was the head of Cloudy Distance Peak from Xuantianzong. The Stone Absolute decided it was impossible, and when he entered the wild region, he conducted an investigation. Even the head of Xuantianzong hadn't reached the spirit transformation stage. The Stone Absolute said it would remember his name, and it applied its bloody path. Hong shouted that everything was bad. He was trying to escape. If he managed to escape, the consequences would be catastrophic. The Stone Absolute said that next time, he wouldn't be so careless, and he decided to vanish completely. But Lin decided there wouldn't be a next time, and as he grabbed it, he began to hear the Stone Absolute screaming that no, he wanted it all to end. Lin understood that consuming human blood was a crime against all living things, and he needed to disappear from the face of this earth. Lin, having grabbed him completely, decided to destroy him in one go, so that after that, he would never hear anything about him. Hong looked at all this and thought that the once dirty, bloody demon who held the central region in fear had fallen by his hand. The emperor began to rejoice and shouted that this was wonderful, and the demon had been destroyed by the immortal, and his state of harmony was finally saved. All thanks to the immortal. After his victory, Lin asked the system where his reward was. He shouldn't make him remind him. He calls himself a professional. The system told the owner that he had received the Bone of the Supreme One, a mysterious bone inscribed with runes that grants its owners supreme innate power. And this is a gift for the one destined to become the greatest of the great. The system asked the master if it should connect him to the master. Lin replied that the Supreme One was so cool, he should connect him to him immediately. He couldn't wait. The system said it was already beginning the binding. Once the Supreme Bone binding is complete, the host's strength will increase significantly. After all this, the system indicated that the binding was complete, and it congratulated the owner. Hong immediately noticed that this guy had done something again. The waves of energy emanating from him made him shudder, and he became curious about what a huge legacy he had received. Otherwise, such a brilliant monster could not have appeared in the wild region, and now he must reassess his true strength. He must accelerate his cultivation and reach the fusion stage as quickly as possible to be able to contain him. The emperor approached and said he was grateful to the immortal for saving the people of the state of harmony. They would certainly record this day in the annals, so that posterity would remember the immortal's virtue. Lin replied that he didn't need any thanks. The main thing was that he be a good emperor and take care of his subjects. That was the most important thing. The emperor replied that he would remember the immortal's instructions. But the girl suddenly asked if she could become Xuantianzong's disciple. She also wanted to exorcise demons and eliminate evil like him. Lin used his eye and looked at the abilities of a girl named Zhao Liner, and he noticed that she really did have some good potential for cultivation. He told her that she possessed an excellent water spiritual root. She was a good candidate, and if she truly wants it, he can agree. The emperor asked in surprise, "Really? Then let Linaire thank the immortal quickly." The girl immediately thanked the immortal. The emperor replied that he had saved the state of Wei and accepted her daughter as his disciple. And now let the immortal, on behalf of all the people, permit a feast to be arranged for him and that the two of them be given quarters in the palace for rest. Lin agreed and said they would go. After a while, Hong grew tall and shouted that his wounds had healed and his strength had reached the peak of the spirit transformation stage. And ever since he began cultivating the 3,000 blazing flames and taking elixirs, his cultivation speed has increased significantly. And his mentor's methods are truly impressive. And even though he saved him this time, the humiliation he endured won't be forgotten so easily. And when he reaches the fusion stage, he'll return it all, twice as much. And Lin can only wait. The mere thought of how he will humbly beg for mercy makes him tremble with joy. And suddenly, Lin told Hong to come to him quickly. Hong got angry because it was starting again like last time. Lin told him to be grateful for calling him. This martial arts novel is quite interesting, and he thinks the locals also enjoy stories of someone being humiliated and then rising up. If he were to find himself in that world, he could make a living writing novels, and starting with the peak of martial arts will definitely be a hit across the country. The author's pen name is Crazy Potato. At that moment, Hong wondered what the instructor was saying again. He asked him why he'd called him. Lin replied that he had already arrived and ordered him to help him wash his feet. Hong was extremely angry, thinking that even someone like the blood demon had fallen at his hands. Now was not the time to break ties with him. He had to be patient. Lin asked the boy, "Why is he neglecting his mentor?" "Tell him to come quickly and help him wash his feet." Hong grew angry and said his disciple wouldn't dare. He'd never been a fire cult master who'd reached the stage of true immortality, and tens of thousands of cultivators had fallen under his hands. And now he's forced to wash the feet of a cultivator from the wilderness. Lin suddenly started saying he's a good student, and he thought he was trying to compete with him, but suddenly, Hong sensed that this was the water of Tai, the water of boundless light, and it allows mortals to retain their youth and live for 200 years. Cultivators who drink it cleanse their bodies of all impurities and dramatically increase their strength. Even a small bottle of this elixir sells out instantly in the central region. It's incredibly rare, and the mentor uses this to wash his feet. And now, he's absolutely certain he's received a huge inheritance. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so wasteful. And if he drank this water, it would be a huge boost to his cultivation. And then he realized it was water for washing his feet. Lin asked what the expression was on his face. Did he think his feet stink? Hong replied that they didn't. The student was simply thinking about something else. Lin understood that the system had produced too much of the Tai water of boundless light. So using it to wash his feet, and even getting a massage from this cheap disciple, was quite pleasant. Lin suddenly told him the water had cooled down and that he should reheat it. Hong replied that it would be done immediately. Using his powers, Hong put his hands into the bucket and heated the water using fire. Suddenly, Liner walked in and addressed the immortal. But Lin didn't care, as he was enjoying the moment of washing his feet. Liner was shocked to see this and immediately wondered, what's going on? She hadn't expected such a strange relationship between mentor and student. She didn't stop and ran away from there. After all, she was very ashamed. Lin asked her why she was running away, but Hong interrupted him and asked the master if he liked the way he washed his feet. Lin replied that he really liked her, and how he wished Hong was a girl. Otherwise, their relationship would be completely different. Hong was very angry when he heard these words. He thought that if he got stronger, he'd die of fear. And he only had to endure a little longer. Suddenly, Lin's ring rang. He immediately said it was a message from the sect leader. The leader ordered him to return to the sect immediately to discuss strategy. And it seemed an ancient secret world would soon be discovered in the wild region. And if Xuantianzong can profit from it, their sect will surely flourish. Ling asked in surprise, "An ancient secret world?" Hong replied that these places were full of cultivation resources, capable of changing a cultivator's destiny, elevating them to a completely different level. He hadn't expected such a place to exist in this poor, wild region. He knew such news would soon spread everywhere, and chaos would ensue. But this was his chance. And if he can obtain an outstanding inheritance there, with the combination of the 3,000 blazing flames, his strength will increase dramatically. Suddenly, the system announced a new quest. He had to complete it in the secret world of Tian and receive an incredible reward. Lin asked the system to explain what she meant. The system replied that if she did, it wouldn't be a surprise anymore. Lin immediately told his disciple to get ready. They would visit the emperor and then return to the sect. Hong replied that everything would be done. Arriving at the emperor's palace, Linaire told her father that she didn't want to leave. Perhaps it would be better for her to stay? The emperor replied, "No!" Acceptance into Xuantianzong was a great honor, one many only dream of. She should cherish this opportunity and not let it slip away. The emperor told the immortal that he would remember his instructions and would care for the people and become a good emperor. And he hoped he would take care of his daughter. Lin replied that to each his own. She wouldn't be whitewashed at Xuantianzong, but how far she would progress depended entirely on her. Lin told Linaire to get up and they were leaving. Everyone began shouting their thanks to the immortal as they said goodbye, and she would be visiting her father. At that time, in the True Heritage Hall of the Heavenly Ascension sect, the headmaster was saying that there were so many events happening in the wild region recently. They say an ancient secret world will soon be discovered there. And the Wind and Thunder sect was also destroyed. It was the Xuantianzong Peak's leader who did it. Zhao asked, "What level of power is this?" The leader replied that, according to rumors, it was a recently ascended nascent soul cultivator. Zhao asked in surprise, "Soul nascent?" Killing such cultivators was like slaughtering chickens for him. Zhao asked the teacher, "What about his father, Elder Mu? Who killed him?" The leader replied that it was unclear at this point. But all the evidence pointed to Xuantianzong. The problem was, could this insignificant sect have killed Elder Mu? They are only counting on this head of the cloudy distance peak at the soul birth stage. Zhao said that meant someone else was the killer. But in any case, Xuantianzong must be eliminated. And that cloudy distance peak leader who killed his father must certainly die. The leader replied that an ancient secret dimension had appeared in the wild region. The sect would send several elders there with him, and let him remember, he represents the Heavenly Ascension sect. He will have to fight other great powers. He could think about revenge later. He hoped Zhao would set his priorities straight. Did he understand? Zhao replied that the student understood everything. The leader had a plan, and holding a green pill in his hand, he said that he must continue to demonstrate his strength. And with the resources he won in the Great Sect competition, he has a chance to break through the bottleneck of the Great Completion stage and reach the transition stage. Then they will both ascend to a new level. In the heavenly world, a cultivator at the spirit transformation stage is called a divine sovereign. A cultivator at the fusion stage becomes a heavenly sovereign, and one who has reached the Great Completion stage is called a venerable or supreme. And at the transition stage, he already bears the title of illusory immortal. Just touch the title of immortal, and he can already dominate the region. And the wild region, the most remote and uninteresting part of the eastern region, suddenly attracted everyone's attention because of this ancient secret world that carries the possibility of gaining immortality. At that moment, a group of people were heading to the peak. One of them said they were simply lucky. Fortunately, the cultivators of the wild region were extremely weak. They would definitely miss such an opportunity. But they told him that the wild region was considered the most backward place, inhabited by barbarians. How could the possibility of becoming immortal even exist there? The third guy said they needed to hurry too. Once the Heavenly Ascension sect arrived, not a crumb of the spoils would be left. Suddenly, a large number of people gathered in the eastern region, a wild region outside the ancient secret world. One of the elders said that this time, the discovery of the secret world had already attracted 4 of the 5 great sects. Only Xuantianzong hadn't appeared yet. They decided to give up the fight, but the warrior replied that it was unlikely. After all, they had just absorbed the Wind and Thunder sect, and he thought they were already planning to become the leading sect among the 5 great sects of the wild region. Mountain Moving Sect Elder Ouyang Feng began to laugh and said that he had been in seclusion for a long time. But did a certain Xuantianzong really dare to overshadow his mountain-moving sect? The warrior immediately turned around and asked, "Spirit transformation?" The elder replied that he thought even having 2 nascent soul cultivators would make Xuan Tianzong the leader. But who would have thought that a spirit transformation cultivator would appear in the wild region? All the warriors stood in line together and began to say that they greeted the elder. Chief Feng said he didn't expect to emerge from seclusion and immediately find the emergence of an ancient secret world. This is a sign of fate, and this secret world will be the first to come under the control of the Moving Mountain sect. And does anyone dare object? The elders immediately realized that since Feng had reached the stage of spirit transformation, he was now rightfully considered the strongest man in the wild region. All the servants said they obeyed the divine master's command. Long live the sect's master! The warriors asked, since a spirit transformation cultivator had appeared, who would dare argue with him now? The warriors said the temple of the battle sky was here, and the barbarians of the wild region, let them get out of here. But the empire of the heavenly sovereign, ruler of the southern borders, had already arrived, and he was in the late stages of spiritual transformation. The chief asked if there really was a spirit transformation cultivator in the wild region. Chief Feng thought, what spirit transformation? There are already hundreds of them here. He'd broken through to the spirit transformation stage with such difficulty and become one of the key figures in the wild region over the past 10 years. Outside of that realm, it's not even considered significant. He turned to the esteemed Taoist and said he was an elder of the Moving Mountain sect, and could they simply call him Xiaofeng? But the warrior asked him, aren't you ashamed? He wanted to look young too. He should get out of here immediately and keep quiet. No one here gave him a chance to speak. The elders also said that to the barbarians of the wild region, even if he achieved spirit transformation, he would remain a pathetic wretch. And he still thinks he can compare to them? Feng told the respected Taoist that the wild region might have harsh conditions, but the people there were not inferior creatures. And why should they, cultivators at the spirit transformation stage, simply resign themselves and allow themselves to be trampled? He understood that his disciples were looking to him with hope. If he became afraid and simply retreated now, the wild region would have no future. Chief Feng grew angry and said that the wild region was poor. But why not fight? Those who disagreed should come forward. The elders got angry and said he was an insolent old man, probably seeking death. So they all got together and decided to kill the old dog. But the chief stopped them and said that this old man was just a cultivator from the wild region. If they attacked in a crowd, they would be laughed at. So let him be disgraced, but suppress him with one hand. And now the old petch will see how weak he is compared to them. And he used his palm attack. But Chief Feng did not lose his composure and did not leave, and using his attack, he shouted for him to die. The old man's attack was so strong that the enemy didn't even understand how he blocked the attack. The enemy realized he'd apparently underestimated him. Feng asked, "Is that all he can do? Let him try again." The enemy was very angry with him, and drawing his weapon, he immediately attacked and said that he was an ungrateful old man. He must die. Feng was unable to block the attack and was severely injured after his opponent's attack. Chief Feng told him that he himself had said he would fight him alone. And now he was breaking his word. And now he's bringing shame on the entire eastern region. But dying for honor is a worthy death. And he wants to tell him only one thing. The cultivators of the wild region must not be humiliated. The leader of the eastern side said that he would fulfill his wish then. But suddenly a seal went off next to him, and he was shocked that he even heard someone say that it was a busy place today. The warriors said it was the abbot of the celestial temple of the Buddhist province, the master of the golden Buddha. And behind him was young Master Tien and the heir of the first cultivating clan of the Ice Ocean. The leader also felt a terrifying pressure radiating from them. They had both reached the stage of fusion. And so, the wild region will never win. The Heavenly Ascension sect has also arrived from the Jade Gorge province. Now, all the strongest sects in the eastern region are here. The warriors were surprised and began shouting that this was the holy son of the Heavenly Ascension sect, Chen Xiao. They had heard of him, He possessed the body of a solar immortal and was considered invincible among his peers. And without a doubt, he will become the brightest star of the Eastern region. In the next 100,000 years, he will write a new legend, the Eastern chief asked. Wasn't he the crown prince of the Wind and Thunder sect? He was from the Wild region after all. He understood that the Wild region was the place where he had suffered so much humiliation in the Heavenly Ascension sect. It filled him with nothing but disgust. One of the elders attacked and said that the Heavenly Ascension sect's holy son was not a figure to be discussed by mere ants from the Wild region. Anyone who spoke too much would die. Suddenly, the Wild region's chief approached and told Zhao not to dirty his hands with these insignificant cultivators. He should let him deal with them. Xiao told his man to do as he pleased. Chief Xuan Tianzong also arrived and said that, as he had expected, as soon as the secret world appeared, the son of the late Elder Mu from the Wind and Thunder sect, Xiao, would appear. Fortunately, Xuan Tianzong didn't rush headlong into the chaos. Zhao told the leader that while they were fighting for resources, perhaps they could leave the wilderness and lay low for a while. Su replied that everything depended on little brother Ye. He was Xuan Tianzong's last hope. But where was he? Suddenly, the headmaster shouted that junior brother Yi had already gone there, and Xiao was there too. Wasn't that suicide? Chief Fang saw Lin and said, "This is a young man from Xuan Tianzong," and he asked him not to be reckless. Lin said these upstarts have completely lost their minds. Without him, the Wild region is simply doomed. Let everyone stay put and not move. Zhao asked, "Who's there?" "Tell him his name immediately." Lin introduced himself and said he was his father's killer. The guy in the group heard his name and asked, "Isn't this the Soaring Peak Lord of the Xuan Tian sect?" But someone told him that he was only in the nascent stage of his soul. Had he come here to die? Xiao, hearing where Lin came from, was actually furious and couldn't even control himself. Ling asked, "What's with this unbridled rage?" "What business did he have with him?" Zhao asked. "Did he kill the Wind and Thunder sect patriarch?" Lin asked, "What about that idiot?" He remembered the patriarch always saying his son had the potential for immortality. Was he really his son? Xiao was furious and couldn't even speak, anger overflowing his mind. But Lin didn't stop and said that it was true. He was that idiot's offspring. Zhao became enraged and told him he would kill him. But suddenly, the servant turned to Saint Chen and asked him to allow him to seize this madman and hand him over to him. The warrior told Lin that he was a brat who dared to disrespect a saint, and now he had only himself to blame. But suddenly, Hong rose to Lin's defense, ready to fight the warrior. The warrior looked at her and asked, "Where did such a beauty come from?" But Hong didn't speak to him anymore after hearing him call him a girl. He immediately attacked with his fire attack and unleashed a fiery virtual ripple. But the warrior was shocked and a little confused. After all, Hong's attack had completely burned him alive. The elder then asked, "Did a spirit transformation stage cultivator die just like that?" Chief Feng asked when such powerful cultivators appeared in their wild region. He even called himself a pioneer in this wild region. But now, new peaks are hidden behind the mountains, and unknown heights stretch beyond the sky. Afterwards, Hong approached his mentor. Feng was shocked and asked, "Is this the Soaring Peak Lord's disciple Lina?" But who claimed that the Soaring Peak Yi Sovereign was at the nascent soul stage? How could a nascent spirit stage cultivator have a nascent soul stage disciple? So perhaps the Xuantian sect is so powerful? The leader approached Junior Ye and asked if he realized he was echoing his words. "This is the Heavenly Ascension sect. Let him run away and they'll hold them off." Zhao also said yes. As long as he lives, the Xuantian sect has a chance to be reborn. He can't die here. Lin told the clan leader not to worry. He was fine. Let him introduce the new disciple. Linaire approached and said she greeted her elders. Lin replied that after resolving the problems of the Kingdom of Harmony, he had found a promising young woman, the daughter of Emperor Wei. With the highest quality root water soul, it is ideal for the peak of heavenly fragrances. Liner approached Su and greeted her mentor. Su immediately noticed that this little girl was the true embodiment of spirituality, but Zhao didn't let it go. and shouted at Ling not to look down on him. Ling and everyone from the Xuantian set, they would pay with their lives for his father, and Lin will naturally suffer for a long time. Lin asked him, "Are you planning to compete with him? He's not even worthy of that." Lin immediately ordered Hong to follow him and teach him humility, just as he had taught him, and Hong decided he was like a dog let off the leash, and he was definitely not a lapdog, and he immediately ran after them. Zhao, seeing Hong, called his mentor a coward, and said that he himself was afraid to meet him face to face, a true saint. Hong looked at him and replied that his mentor's intervention was not required to fight him. But Zhao asked, "With such strength and beauty, why should he languish in a pathetic sect? Let him accept their offer, and the heavenly Ascension sect will bestow upon him the highest favors." But Hong replied that he wasn't interested. Zhao called him a girl and asked if he really refused to even consider it. Hong replied that his mentor was right. Zhao's father was an idiot, and he, his son, was a double idiot. Zhao listened to her and said that since she refused the treat, she should be punished, and immediately attacked him. Unleashing a swirling fire attack, he aimed it straight at him. But Hong didn't lose his cool and unleashed his meteorite flame. Hong endured everything and repelled his attack with ease. Zhao asked in surprise, "What? He destroyed his technique so easily?" Hong asked him if that was it. Zhao told him not to get too excited. It was just the beginning. Zhao poured out all his strength and decided to show what he was really capable of. And he used the fist of the solar deity. The leader said at that moment that the Holy Sun was truly endowed with a divine gift. His supreme heavenly rank technique, which harmoniously combines with his solar immortal body, is so powerful that it can destroy even a spirit transformation stage cultivator. And if the enemy has reached the stage of fusion, then he will undoubtedly suffer significant losses when faced with such perfection. And suddenly, after his powerful attack, Zhao said he asked for it. And at the moment of the counterattack, an explosion occurred. Everyone was shocked by what they saw, and Xiao was already glad that he had finished off Ling's disciple. But looking closely after the smoke, he saw the whole face of Hong, who remained alive after such a strong attack. Zhao was shocked and screamed that this couldn't be true. He didn't believe it. He was born for immortality, and he was invincible among his peers. But Zhao didn't stop there and continued to strike and finish the job. But Hong said, "The frog is in the well, and he will unleash all the anger he's accumulated over Yiling on him, and let him know true humiliation." But Hong was stronger than him and continued to counterattack, destroying Xiao like a breeze. For a moment, Zhao wondered why all his attacks were dissolving, like punches to cotton wool. There was no effect, and was he really weaker than her? Zhao said he had never seen such martial prowess among the heavenly Ascension sect's cultivators. How could such a pathetic sect have nurtured such a disciple? Hong told him he was just a weakling, that's all. The elder shouted at the Holy Sun not to doubt him. He is the chosen hero of the heavenly Ascension sect, born for immortality. Zhao suddenly said that he is a Holy Sun born for immortality, and he released his chi again, saying that he was not yet defeated. And he used his solar immortal body and commanded him to awaken. And he used the Divine Eclipse primordial technique and sent it straight into Hun's body. But Hong wasn't afraid and said it was child's play. He would show him the true meaning of the words invincible among equals, and he would show him the difference between them. And she used the 7-colored flame attack, and she released everything that was inside him. Chi Feng was surprised and said, "This guy has such a level of strength. Is he really just at the spirit transformation stage?" The elder said that this power, and is it really capable of destroying even someone who has reached the fusion stage? And I wonder who will ultimately win. But when people saw Xiao fall to the ground, they began to say, "This is the Holy Son of the Heavenly Ascension sect." Could he really have lost? Hong asked them how a spark dared to compete with the radiance of the full moon. The leader also saw this and said to his elder brother that his disciple is too strong. Zhao also replied that although he had defeated Zhao, the Heavenly Ascension sect still had many elders. it would be best for them to leave quickly. Lin suddenly joined the conversation and told them not to worry. There was no need to worry about it. Upon seeing his student, Lin told Hong that he would be getting an extra meal today. The student replied that he was grateful to his teacher. Zhao was shocked and said he'd lost. But suddenly, someone turned to him and told him to turn around. Zhao told the Fire Elder that he had lost. He was invincible in his realm, and he had brought shame on the Heavenly Ascension sect. But the Elder truly didn't expect the Holy Sun to be defeated by a disciple of the Wild Region. His Taoist heart wavered. If this continued, the reputation of the Heavenly Ascension sect would be ruined. The Elder told the Holy Sun not to think about unnecessary things. He had a great future ahead of him. He was born to become immortal, and they must strengthen his Taoist heart and destroy these barbarians from the Wild Region to restore the greatness of their sect. The Elder began shouting that there must be retribution for insulting the Holy Sun of the Heavenly Ascension set. He asked who would go and destroy these barbarians. Suddenly, someone from their sect said they would go. The warriors began to say that, as expected, the Heavenly Ascension sect had deep roots, and this time they had sent 9 fusion stage masters. Although this girl defeated the Holy Sun, he is still only in the spirit transformation stage. He is nothing compared to the fusion masters. But the monk said that such a waste of talent was truly pathetic. Hong, seeing someone attacking them, asked if he should accept the fight. Lin told him not to worry, and to leave him alone. He would deal with him himself. People seeing this began to say that the head of the floating peak, Lin, had already reached the fusion stage. But the chief said he thought the soaring peak chief's disciple had already shocked him enough. But it turned out the chief himself was a heavenly sovereign, and he even boasted, calling himself the #1 in the Wild Region. How ridiculous. The warrior asked him, "A fusion? So what? Does he really think he can compete with him? And those who insult the Holy Sun, barbarians from the Wild Region, must die." And he unleashed a flurry of attacks. But Lin didn't even flinch, and she asked him if he was joking. And, having passed through his opponent's attack, he found himself right in front of his enemy. But Lin didn't look at him for long, and used his kick attack and fired it straight into his chest. After this, Lin looked and asked, "Is that all?" He too hadn't expected that after bonding with the Supreme Bone, his physical strength would become so terrifying. Now he can crush anyone at the same stage using only the natural strength of his body. The Elder ordered his men to all attack him and finish him off. The warriors immediately surrounded him, but Lin was not afraid and used the seal of the ruler of people. All the warriors could not resist him and did not even touch his body with their fingers. The warriors were all wounded, and one of them asked, "What is this divine ability? This guy is too strong. Let everyone use their artifacts to destroy him." One of the warriors used the immortal sword of Jade Serenity, and they all launched in one attack. But Lin wasn't afraid of them, and just stood there and waited for their attack to reach him. But the monk said it was a brutal, combined attack, and may the Buddha ensure that this man's inevitable death comes. The warrior saw that this bald prude appeared to be full of mercy, but behind his back, he was doing things even he despised. Still, he agreed with the monk. Such moments as Yelena should die as soon as possible. The clan leader shouted and said that Chief Ye was in danger. Zhao also replied that he had told them they should have fled immediately. It was too late now, but Su told them they didn't understand anything. Hong knew that after what he'd seen in the State of Harmony, he had no more doubts. He was definitely still hiding something, and now they would see what else he was hiding. Lin started laughing and replied that if that's the case, let him try it, and he used one of the Upper Bone's divine abilities. Everyone was surprised to see his attack and asked, "What's going on? And what kind of energy was this?" Lin didn't stop there and continued to use divine avenging light, consuming them all at once. All the warriors were defeated and seriously wounded. They didn't even know what to do against the enemy. They even begged the Fire Elder to save them. The Elder said he didn't expect this guy to be so problematic. The Holy Sun was already gravely wounded. If their elders fell too, how could he report to the sect? He decided to take action on his own and immediately attacked from the ship. People said it was the Fire Elder's 3-star spiritual artifact, the Buddha Tower. It was his greatest weapon. Now they were saved. The Elder used the Buddha Tower attack and said that this is where it will all end. And their enemy will die. Lin, too, was overjoyed at the moment, because he'd been waiting for this very moment. The system immediately responded and announced that a collision with a peak fusion stage cultivator had been detected. Even with his passive effect activated, he becomes stronger when facing opponents stronger than himself, and the power of a full fusion stage has been achieved. The Elder tried to get closer to him, but couldn't, and kept using his attack. But Lin always repelled them. The Elder was shocked and asked if he'd been hiding his power all this time. But Lin didn't answer, and instead unleashed a stream of energy at him. The Elder told the Senior that today's incident meant they were admitting defeat. The Heavenly Ascension sect was voluntarily abandoning the fight for the secret world. Lin got angry and told them that they came when they wanted to and decided to just leave. If that's the case, then they should die. The Elder replied that the boy had gone too far. Wasn't he afraid of the Heavenly Ascension sect's wrath? But suddenly he thought for a moment and said that everything was clear to him now. And that meant that Elder Mu from the outer courtyard had also died at his hands. Lin told him it was all true. Since he'd already made enemies, why not kill a few more for fun? Without even leaving a chance for the Elder's life, he burned him alive and did not even let him say anything last. The warriors were shocked and asked, how could this be possible? This barbarian from the wild region had obliterated a Fire Elder of the Heavenly Ascension sect with a single wave of his hand. The Elder saw that the Elder had also fallen. Chen Xiao's Taoist heart was shattered. The reputation and strength of the Heavenly Ascension sect would suffer enormous damage. However, looking at the monk, I saw that now a real performance would begin in the eastern lands. Zhao was also furious, as even the Fire Elder couldn't defeat him. Was his father's killer really that powerful? Would he ever be able to take revenge? The warriors began shouting that everything was bad. The elders were in trouble. Let them take the Holy Sun and leave, and activate the golden ship. Hong got angry and asked them if they were just showing off and then running away. But he left them no chance of escape, and releasing flames into the ship, shouted that they would all die. The warriors said they had first killed the elders of the Heavenly Ascension sect, and now they were going to kill the Holy Sun as well. They had decided to exterminate every last one, and this mentor and student are simply crazy. But suddenly, at that moment, a monk stepped in to protect the ship and used his palm. The monk addressed him as a young lady, and asked when this endless cycle of revenge would end. Why did they want to exterminate every last one of them? Hong told the bald monk not to think he couldn't see through their Buddhist tricks. By saving them now, he wanted to make the Heavenly Ascension sect feel indebted to him. This hypocrisy was disgusting. The monk told him not to speak falsely. His prejudice against Buddhism was too strong, and they were already showing signs of falling into demonic ways. He would advise them to hold on. Hong replied that when he was in the central region, he despised people like the monk the most. They do everything for their own gain, but hide behind virtue. And even if he were to turn to the demonic path, he wouldn't need his guidance. The monk decided that in that case, he'd let him guide him back to the true path. Hong felt the old monk pressing with incredible pressure. He was clearly at the peak of the fusion stage, but suddenly Lin stood in front of the monk and asked if someone had decided to offend his disciple while he was busy. The monk told Mr. Ye that he was mistaken. He only wanted to give his student some guidance. Lin asked, "Instruct?" The monk thought he was worthy of instructing his disciples. Hong thought the same thing as instructing a reincarnated person at the stage of a true immortal. He, a mere monk at the fusion stage, was thinking the same thing. Hong said he was grateful for their help. His disciple had intended to hold up their ship, but the old bald monk had thwarted him, and they were able to escape. The monk replied that he simply thought things had gone too far and decided to intervene to smooth things over. If Mr. Ye thought otherwise, he had nothing to say. Lin suddenly asked, "What, he's decided to show off and run away? He should stop, since he's already started acting like that." The monk asked Mr. Ye what he meant. He understood that the floating temple was one of the most powerful Buddhist orders in the eastern region, and he just made enemies in the heavenly Ascension sect, and he thinks he has the courage to be at odds with them too. Lin told the monk that he knew how to craft clever combinations. He did nothing, but managed to create a huge debt of gratitude for himself, and he left all the dirty work for him to handle in the future. If he's so prescient, why shouldn't he predict the date of his own death? The monk told Mr. Ye that his words had gone too far. Lin had already used a fire attack and asked, "So what?" But the monk didn't do anything and used the golden bell. However, his defenses were weak and he was wounded by Lin's attack. The monk straightened his posture as he fell and regained his footing. He told his mentor that the immortal was mocking them. Did he really think the floating temple was a weak point? The teacher replied that since Mr. Ye was so persistent, then he shouldn't blame him for being cruel. The Golden Buddha's master used the image of the Dharma Buddha against him. But Lin watched all this and did nothing immediately. The warriors have already said that this is a Buddhist technique of great manifestation, and in his hands is a 3-star spiritual artifact of the 9 ringed glands. And this Lin has completely lost his mind. He's already angered the Heavenly Ascension sect, and now he wants to make enemies within the Buddhist orders. Is he simply tired of life? The mentor told Mr. Ye that he had given him a chance, but he was too stubborn, and now he would calm him down. The monk raised his weapon into the air and launched a resolution attack. But Lin stood his ground and replied that he was interested. Lin told him to let the monk do her job already. He used the heavenly burial coffin to stop her with one hand. The monk was a little surprised after all this. He couldn't even understand how the immortal had done all this. And suddenly, Lin noticed that as his level increased, this coffin had evolved from a 4-star artifact to a 6-star one. Lin told the monk that his divine ability was all he could do, and sent everyone inside. The monks were shocked and asked what it was. They shouted to their master to save them. The monk's master was shocked and considered him a cursed evil. An evil spirit was hiding within the Xuan sect. The monk told his allies that this man was a heretic, and they were to destroy him immediately. The others were already wondering if anyone would risk it, and Hong realized he'd known all along that his mentor was hiding something else. The monk told Mr. Ye that they were already at odds with the Heavenly Ascension sect. Did he really want to make an enemy of the Eastern region's most powerful Buddhist sect? Lin replied that what irritated him most were hypocrites like them. He had no limits on who would become his enemy. His principle is simple: destroy hypocrites. And with a wave of his hand, he told the monk to stop chattering and go to his coffin immediately. Having locked the monk in the coffin, he lifted him up with one hand and asked who else wanted to attack. The clan leader shouted that Brother Ye had done a great job, and he had done a fantastic job. Zhao also asked, "Is he sleeping? Someone should hit him." Su immediately granted his wish and punched him in the face. Zhao asked her sister why she was shaking him. Su asked, "What's hurt?" The boy replied, "Of course it hurts." Su said that meant it wasn't a dream. The elder couldn't believe it and asked, had the wild region really won? It's incredible that he was able to suppress them all single-handedly, and everyone began shouting together that they were welcoming the heavenly ruler. Did the enemies think this was still a wild region? Were they sure they hadn't come to the wrong place? They thought Ye had only defied fate 3 times, but how wrong they were. And he not only shook the greatest sect of the Eastern region, the Heavenly Ascension sect, to its foundations, but also reduced the priest of the Buddhist temple to dust. However, he has now made mortal enemies, and retribution will be merciless. And if he can further destabilize the Eastern region, it will only play into their hands. And if this continues, their Shui clan will be able to reap enormous benefits. Suddenly, a huge beam descended from the sky. The warriors began to say that this was wonderful. The secret world had finally opened up. For the first time in his life, he had seen such a magnificent sight. Lin saw that he was overjoyed, because now all he had to do was go inside to complete the task. But first, he needed to deal with the remnants of the hostile sects that had arrived. Lin said that everyone who belongs to the wild region has the right to enter and explore this world. The rest should leave. The clan was dissatisfied, and the guys shouted that their Shu clan had never entered into conflict with the Xuantian sect. But despite this, they were being blocked, and how sorry he was that the elders were absent. They would not have allowed such lawlessness. The warrior immediately told the young lord that the higher the sun rises, the brighter its sunset. To enter a battle whose outcome is already decided is to challenge fate, knowing it is not on their side. The young gentleman replied that he was absolutely right. Before crushing the enemy, he would drive him to the brink of madness. Let him wallow in his arrogance. It would be his undoing. There was nothing more to do here. It was time for them to leave. People were already saying that even the Shui clan didn't dare to oppose him. And it seems no one will dare to oppose this Yi Ling. The warriors who had to leave said that they came from far away, but in the end, they got nothing. The young gentleman replied that they could enjoy their triumph for now, but they would wait and see. Lin took his disciple with him and said it was time for them to go. And so they entered the bright world of Luotian. Lin said he hadn't expected such a stunning atmosphere inside. The system suddenly indicated that an activation site had been located. Should they accept the reward? Lin replied that he accepted. The system showed that he had received the projection. The owner looked at it and said it was good. After all, the great Buddha form of that golden Buddha monk's master was quite a nuisance. If he hadn't used the heavenly burial coffin, it would have been a serious battle. The chieftain ordered his men to scatter and search for rare herbs, but not to go far. Keep an eye on each other. Lin knew he only wanted to complete the task, but since everyone was so busy, it was worth exploring the place a little. Suddenly, some of the boys fell into the trap of a monster who tried to attack them and eat them. The warriors shouted to the others to be careful. The local creatures were very dangerous. And another attack. The leader said they're surrounded and everyone needs to gather. In this world, even monsters have reached the level of the golden core, so we can't let our guard down. Hong replied that if they wanted resources, they should show their strength. No one was giving them away for free, but things turned out to be much more complicated. Suddenly, the birds began flying past, and a troop of monkeys pounced on them. The leader immediately ordered his men to prepare for battle. The warriors immediately began fighting the troop of monkeys. The monkeys were so sinister that they were ready to eat everyone and cut them into small pieces. But suddenly, she grabbed a girl from among them, and she screamed and begged for help. The warriors approached her to help, and attacking, tried to remove him. But the monkey was so strong that no attack could do him any harm, and his fur was so tough that he felt nothing. The girl was still underneath him and screaming that she shouldn't do this, and that someone should help her already. Hong suddenly saw this sight and walked up to him and used his fire attack to burn him. Hong asked the girl if she was okay. The girl thanked her brother Hong. At that moment, the headmaster also told brother Hong that he would be more comfortable with him and to take care of the younger disciples. And these white monkeys possess the power of soul nurturing. There are certainly too many of them, and they are very agile. Let them be careful. Hong saw that the chief was still nervous about his arrival, but he'd better take care of himself. But the monkeys weren't content to stop and immediately pounced on him. But Hong sensed them at the beginning and used a fire attack and said that they were all doomed. The warriors looked at all this and said that their elder brother Hong was amazing. And he was right. He had completely adopted the style of his teacher Ye. But Hong got tired of hearing their words and told them to shut up. And he wondered where that bastard Lin had disappeared to. And he was probably slacking off again. At this time, in the forest, Lin asked the system if it was sure that the special energy anomaly was in this direction. The system responded to the owner, "Yes, right there. And there's a new task on that side, and the reward is far better than for a regular activation." The inhabitants of the depths of the secret world of Luotian were on the tree of the Great World. One of the elder residents said that the fruit of the Great Tree of Peace had finally ripened, but at the same time, the secret world of the Great Lu was also revealed, allowing several human invaders to invade their territory. But the Peak Fusion Stagestone clan chief said that they had to deal with it immediately. The head of the giant clan immediately entered the conversation and said that he believed that dividing the fruit of the great tree of peace was their primary task. Once they have completely consumed the fruit, they will acquire the body of the great world tree, and then they will crush the invaders like ants. But the head of the winged clan replied that this little white mouse had already managed to steal the fruit. They couldn't get to it yet. The head of the dragon clan said it was all because the fruit ripened so unexpectedly. They didn't even have time to react. But the head of the Pisces clan began to reply that nothing could be done about it. Now that he had eaten the fruit, the tree had recognized him, and until he digested it, they could not touch him. Otherwise, the tree would attack them. The tree clan leader said it seemed like all they could do was wait for him to digest the fruit, then seize it and use secret methods to process it, and then divide it. That would be fair. But the head of the giant clan did not agree with them a little, and said that he swears he will make this lowly white mouse pay for his greed. Suddenly, one of the residents said that the light was fading. He had almost finished digesting the fruit. Suddenly, tiny paws began to emerge from the fruit. The mouse immediately emerged and said she had been sleeping soundly. All the villagers looked at her and were very angry. The mouse greeted her brothers and asked why they were looking for her, and for what reason. The mouse realized they were going to do something to her, maybe even kill her. She began to walk away slowly, telling them not to stop her. The head of the giant clan said that this stinking rat became so fast. The effect of the fruit of the great world tree is truly amazing. The head of the tree clan immediately released his roots and told the others to stop being surprised and find her quickly. The mouse saw the roots of the tree's leader following her, shouting at them that she wanted to discuss everything, and she was intelligent and ready to talk. Suddenly, Mouse saw an unfamiliar portal in front of her. She wasn't afraid and jumped into it. Upon entering, she felt very ill and said she felt dizzy, but she didn't know where she was. The head of the winged clan said that who would have thought that by digesting the fruit, she received the power of spatial movement, and if she escapes, completely digests the fruit, and experiences cultivation, that will be a real disaster. So she must resign herself to dying here. The head of the winged clan showed no mercy to the mouse and launched an attack with her feathers. The mouse was caught in the crossfire and screamed in pain. Falling to the ground, the mouse said that she didn't want to be eaten. The mouse wanted to survive. But the head of the Kamnev clan stood behind her and said that she would die anyway, and he unleashed his air attack. The mouse was so weak and small that the air threw her into the abyss, and she couldn't even resist. The head of the winged clan approached and said that some dead rat dared to lay claim to the fruit of the great tree of peace. Did she even know how valuable it was? And who did she think she was to have a right to it? The head of the giant clan also came down and told the mouse to run away. But when he saw her standing still, he asked why she wasn't running. Or did she think that since she'd eaten the fruit, she could escape them? The mouse replied that their names weren't written on the fruit, so why shouldn't the mouse have eaten it? And now they're blaming her for nothing. She's so ashamed. The head of the tree clan asked if she knew that the tree of the great world tree, which supports the entire secret world of Tien, grows fruit over many eras, and anyone who eats it gains the body of the great Luo. This is the greatest body, the first in the ranking of bodies in the world of immortals. Their tribes had waited for this moment for hundreds of generations, and when the fruit finally appeared, she claimed it. Let her say, shouldn't she die so that the fruit can be returned to those to whom it rightfully belongs? The mouse was surprised and asked, so, she'd done such a terrible thing? What should she do now? She could really die after all. But she begged someone to save her. But the head of the tree clan tried to crush it with his hand, when suddenly he received an attack from behind. Stopping, he sensed an aura and asked the stranger who he was. Lin immediately appeared and asked the system what it had said about the energy wave emanating from that white mouse. The system responded that yes, this little mouse had just eaten the fruit of the great world tree, and its body had already formed into that of a great Luo. It had enormous potential for development. Lin became very curious when he heard about the world trees. The mouse approached him and said that the hero had saved her, and those evil people wanted to eat her. Lin thought about it and realized this scenario seemed familiar. Why did every time he took on a student, he saved someone else? Had he really turned into Tang Sang? But if Hong is so stubborn, then at least this white, plump mouse will likely be obedient. And if he's right, he'll make her his apprentice. The head of the giant clan immediately launched an attack, shouting that an invader had arrived. How dare he ignore them? And now he would make him pay for it. But Lin didn't run away, and, stopping the hammer with one hand, said that the mouse was now his, and if they left, he would spare them. The head of the Stone Clan also attacked, and asked the stranger if he too was at the peak of the fusion stage. How dare he say such a thing, since they were all on the same level? The head of the giant clan saw their support and said that everything was right, and together they would crush him. But Lin wasn't even surprised by their words, and immediately walked up and struck with his bare hands. The head of the giant clan was in great shock, because he was thrown back so hard that he didn't even expect it. The head of the giant clan asked how such a simple blow could have such power, but the head of the winged clan didn't stand aside, and told the man he was simply seeking death, and she unleashed a barrage of attacks from her feathers. Lin used his defense and replied that since they had decided to resist, then they should not blame him for being rude. And he unleashed the great wasteland finger attack, sealing the heavens. Rising into the sky, he unleashed a fiery avalanche upon them. The heads of the clans were hit by a huge stone and shouted to all stand together and repel this attack. But seeing that they were advancing again, Lin said that the stone one was being exposed to attack. And this was a little interesting, but he wasn't even fazed by this, and decided to test out his new login bonus. And he applied the guise of the Heavenly Emperor, but the head of the giant family appeared nearby and said that he was a cursed person, and he actually used AI to create the manga. And does he now understand how much he's let his readers down? And if so, then all he needs is death to atone for his guilt. Lin stopped his hammer again and asked in surprise, AI? And he told them to open their eyes wide and look. He's not even an AI mangaka. The heads were very surprised and asked him what he was talking about. He showed them the original sketches. Lin stopped chatting and delivered a powerful punch. But the head of the Stone Clan looked at the Stone Defense and said that this really wasn't AI manga. The head of the Tree Clan approached and replied that this was false information and it was time for them to retreat. But Lin told them to keep up their monthly votes and let them remember that new chapters are released thanks to their support. The clan's inhabitants were greatly surprised by his attack and asked what it was, since under this terrifying pressure from this enormous illusion, they seemed so insignificant. And this is definitely something they can handle. Who the hell is he? Suddenly, the people fighting on the other side realized this was a divine incarnation ability, even more powerful than that of the monk from the martial heaven temple. But the elder wondered who had used it. Could it really have been the heavenly ruler? But who could possibly exist as such a powerful incarnation? Even the most powerful incarnations of the Central Lands pale before this one and can only bow in submission. Hong also saw that these were his mentor's tricks again. And how much more was he hiding, he wondered. Suddenly, Lin's spirit announced that the Emperor of Heaven was here. Would they dare resist? But Lin immediately ordered him to kill them all without mercy. But the clan's inhabitants weren't the timid sort and moved in to kill their enemy. The Stone Clan leader immediately charged, while the others remained below. Lin looked at the stone and told it was the strongest of them all, and he unleashed a heaven-splitting blow. The head of the Stone Clan saw the fire in front of him and couldn't even dodge it, as he immediately died from the attack. The head of the Tree Clan said that this was too terrifying a force. The head of the Giant Clan decided to take a different approach, and replied to the Heavenly Lord that he acknowledged their recklessness, and he suggested he stop the fight. They had no reason to destroy each other. But Lin decided he wouldn't leave them, and lowered his fiery hand. The villagers hadn't thought of such a thing, and afterward shouted that he was a damned man. How could he be so cruel and merciless? Their people would never forgive him for this. Lin told them that if they could kill him, they would have done so long ago. Do they think he will believe their words about peace? The imperial form is truly powerful, but it's consumed 80% of his energy. He must be careful not to overuse it. And it's time for him to accept a disciple. Lin looked around and asked where his future apprentice was. That rat had just been here and looked so obedient. How had it managed to escape while he was fighting over it? The mouse ran away at that moment, saying it was too scary, and that two-legged beast nearly scared him to death. Even though he wanted to save her, he was even scarier than those 6 bad guys. But it also seems like the pain from the beating has completely disappeared, and his legs are carrying him faster than ever before. Could all this be thanks to that mysterious fruit? It's simply unbelievable. Suddenly she felt fear, and she thought this two-legged creature was going to catch him. Lin started chasing her and asked the system if the rat was ahead. The system replied that it was, and with just a little effort, he could catch her. Lin looked ahead and said, "This rat turned out to be quite nimble. It's all because of the fruit of the great world tree, and without the system's help, he would never have caught her. But once he did, he would never let go." The mouse realized she needed horses. And why was he approaching so quickly? How did he find her in such a vast forest? Suddenly, Lin appeared in front of her and stopped her. The mouse was shocked that he had appeared in front of her. Lin caressed her with his hand and said that the mouse didn't want to die. She had promised to become his servant, so why had she run away? The mouse replied that it was because his aura was too frightening. She, being a mouse, couldn't take it anymore and ran away. And she was afraid he would want to eat her too. Lin said he'd tried both beef and horse meat, but he'd never eaten rat meat. Maybe it was worth a try, he thought. The mouse replied that rat meat was sour and tasteless. It would also give you a bloated stomach. Lin was surprised and said that she had intrigued him even more, and he wanted to try it too. Grabbing the mouse, he continued that this creature possessed the most powerful immortal body, the body of the great world tree, yet was so easily frightened. And she had only seen him fight when she immediately ran away. And perhaps he'll make a pet out of her. 2 hours later, they stopped in the forest and prepared food. The mouse was sleeping at the time and smelled the scent and said it smelled very nice. Is she still alive? Seeing a large cauldron in front of her, she was afraid that this guy wanted to cook her. Lin told her to come to him, but just don't make him catch her again. The mouse looked at the fire and became very frightened. Lin gave her some meat and told her she was a coward. The mouse started eating and said it was delicious, and she asked what kind of meat it was. She'd never eaten anything like it. Lin replied that it was rabbit meat. The mouse was surprised and said that rabbits were so cute, and why eat rabbits? Lin looked and replied, "Then they're listening to her." The mouse said she wasn't as tasty as a bunny. It's better to eat bunnies. The mouse asked her master if she could have another piece of meat. Lin replied that she could, but on one condition. He would be not only her master, but also her mentor. Would she agree? The mouse was surprised and asked the mentor how she had earned such an honor. Wouldn't it be dangerous? Lin replied that she was talking too much. The mouse would be his apprentice and would eat delicious food, and if there was danger, he would protect her. Sounds good, right? The mouse agreed and said she wanted to become an apprentice. She loves patrons. Lin immediately told her to quickly greet her master. The mouse approached and replied that disciple Bai Xiaoxi was greeting her master. The system immediately congratulated the master for completing the task of accepting a disciple, and he received the reward, the divine ability of the great technique of the 5 wheels of rebirth. He then gains the great technique of 5 wheels of rebirth and destroys everything in his path and deals massive area damage. Lin was delighted and said, "Another powerful ability. That's excellent." He asked the system, was he underestimating him? With his noble nature, he would never harm defenseless animals. The mouse suddenly asked the teacher if he had just spoken to her. Lin replied that he would now impart a technique to her, and she should definitely appreciate it and practice diligently. And she must become his good student. And he fired a beam of energy, which he directed at Ji's head. Lin said she had received the path of the great Dao Luo. She then replied that this technique was amazing, and she felt as if her mind had been enlightened. and she thanked her teacher for the gift of this technique. After this, Lin told her to get up and drink the soup and eat the meat. After all, the meat was already completely cooked. Sai tried her mentor's dish and said it was also very tasty. The teacher was so kind to her. Being his student was a true blessing for her. The mouse would definitely repay him for his kindness. Suddenly, everything began to collapse above them. Lin asked, "What's going on? Why was the sky of the secret world starting to crumble?" The system immediately said that it had discovered that the life cycle of the ancient world tree Luo was coming to an end. It can no longer support the secret world's operations. Let him leave it as soon as possible. Lin said the secret world was beginning to crumble. They had to leave quickly. Then he suddenly saw Shi crying and asked why she was doing this. Ji told the teacher that she didn't know why, but the mouse was so sad. Lin said it might be because her body was connected to the Luo tree. But now the most important thing is to urgently meet with the sect leader and leave this world. Lin opened a portal and moved. The leader began shouting to his men to quickly exit the secret world. "Be careful, don't get hurt." The elder said he didn't expect something like this to happen here. The leader looked around and asked, "Where's junior brother Ye? Should they wait for him?" Lin emerged from the portal and told them the situation was critical. They needed to leave the secret world quickly. The leader said it was excellent, and the younger brother came. Only his disciple remained. Zhao asked leader Ye what he had in his hands. Lin replied that this was his new student. The leader was surprised and asked, "Where is his other student?" After all, his previous disciple, though difficult in character, had a divine appearance and incredible talent. This one, however, was simply a giant rat with no cultivation whatsoever. Lin left, telling them not to worry. He sensed he had already left the secret world. They would meet him outside. Emerging from the world, the elders shouted their arrival. This secret world was full of dangers, but thanks to Lin, they were able to obtain many rare resources. Hong approached the teacher and announced that he had come too. Lin looked and imagined him as his new student. From this day forward, they would live in peace and love. Hong was surprised, but told his mentor he understood everything. Si descended to the ground and asked where she had ended up. Sai looked into the red portal and began to cry and miss her home. And she realized she was about to disappear. But everything turned out to be much worse. Various creatures from another world also crossed over into the real world. The monster asked, "Is this the world beyond the secret world? And why is the spiritual energy so weak here?" The snake also asked, "Are these bipedal creatures the very people mentioned in the ancient records? But why is their cultivation so weak?" The rhinoceros replied that since they were in a new environment, they needed to learn to adapt. He proposed seizing the land and redistributing the territories. The head of the winged clan said that they needed to enslave them first, and then distribute the territories. The leader suddenly said things were bad. These creatures were from the depths of a secret world, ancient relics. Their power was incomparable to anything they'd encountered before. Let them just look. There are hundreds of cultivators here at the spirit transformation stage, and dozens have already reached the fusion stage. They're in big trouble. The warrior was surprised and asked, "Ancient relics?" The leader replied that the cultivation world was full of various races and creatures. A stone tablet in the secret world mentioned their origins. These beings came here from all corners of all worlds. They've survived here for countless years. If these alien beings unite, they could rival the 5 strongest sects in the eastern region. Zhao asked how they could endure this. Perhaps they could try to negotiate? The leader replied that it was impossible. They were barbarians, and they just destroyed their home. Now they will undoubtedly come for revenge and take over their wild region. Trouble is coming. The warriors asked if they were truly doomed. What should they do? Elder Feng came out and told them not to be afraid. They had Lin. As long as he was with them, they would surely prevail. The warriors rejoiced and said they had Lin and were no match for him. Hong thought that, judging by his confidence, the mentor could withstand even the onslaught of such a large number of opponents. The system immediately appeared and announced that a new quest had been activated. the master must gain the trust of 10,000 natives of the secret world and join them to the Xuan Tian sect. Lin asked her, "What's she kidding me about?" It wasn't enough to fight this crowd. Now she had to persuade them? That was a ticket to the madhouse. And she's saying they can't be destroyed, only subjugated? The system told him to do as he saw fit. Suddenly, the chief approached them and asked if he was that Lin, the best fighter here. Lin replied that yes, it was him. Lin saw so many creatures before him, and the Xuantian sect could really accommodate them all? They were all so strange-looking. The monsters asked, "What's there to fear? There's only one of him. And even if he's at the peak of his fusion, can he stand against all of them?" And so they decided to attack him together. Lin used his defense and wondered what to do next. He knew how to fight, but running away was the worst thing, and it looked like it wouldn't be easy. Ji said the teacher looked a little puzzled. He'd been so kind to her, teaching her the technique, feeding her meat. She couldn't let him be alone. Hong heard her words and asked what she was going to do. Si ran and shouted to the teacher that she would come to his aid. Sai didn't ask him any more questions and stood in front of the monsters, deciding to protect the teacher. After this, Ji suddenly became different. Her eyes immediately began to glow and improved several times. The leader, seeing this, said that junior brother Ye's disciple isn't as simple as he seems. His aura inspires involuntary respect. The monsters were very surprised and said that this was the aura of the ancient Luo tree, and they realized that the Luo tree had not abandoned them. All the monsters immediately fell to their knees before her and said they were asking the tree of Lo to guide their people, and how should they proceed? Hong realized that, as he had suspected, every step he took was part of a carefully planned plan. His true nature ran far deeper than it seemed. Lin immediately realized that the Luo tree had produced a fruit that would become the means of his rebirth. And when she ate it, the ancient Luo's body was born within her, and his will remained. And now the will of the Luo tree awakens and attempts to take over Ji's body. He asked her if she was all right. Let her answer him. Lin approached her chief Lo and shouted at Ji to wake up. At that moment, Mouse's subconscious realized that the teacher was calling her, and she couldn't sleep. Having come to her senses, she turned to the teacher and said that she thanked him for waking her up. Lin asked if everything was all right. The monsters were greatly surprised and began to indignantly ask, "Has the great Lo tree become this man's disciple? But how is this possible? Could this bipedal animal be the great Luo's teacher?" Lin, seeing this, whispered to Ji that she needed to do as he told her. Ji didn't respond and simply nodded. Ji addressed them and said that the destruction of this secret world was the will of heaven, and they should not worry. They were all his children, and he would never abandon them. Ling also turned to the great Luo tree and said that heaven was merciful. Their home had been destroyed, but the Xuantian sect was ready to become their new refuge, and they will stand together and survive the disaster. Sai turned to her teacher and thanked him. The monster said he didn't understand. Was the Tree of Lo trying to tell them they had to submit to humans? Sai transformed again and asked if they doubted her words. The monster became frightened and replied that he didn't dare. Ji listened and said that was fine then, and let them follow her and the teacher to the Xuantian sect. The system immediately said that it congratulated the owner for completing the task and would receive a sundial as a reward. Lin looked at it and replied, "That's a success." But the reward isn't particularly impressive. He has a golden arm that makes him stronger without training, so it's simply useless. But this training space could be useful for Hun. He'll be so eager to learn, and he'll just be there. It's wonderful. But this guy still needs some training. Hong saw his mentor's face and wondered why he was looking at him like that. Was he upset that he hadn't helped him solve the problem with the animals? The leader was shocked and approached, asking, "Is this a dream, or is it real? Have these powerful beings joined the Xuantian sect?" Zhao also told the leader that from now on, their Xuantian sect would become one of the 10 strongest sects in the eastern region. Elder Feng asked, "Is this even possible?" Although he's glad the wild region has been saved, It seems no one cares about his mountain-moving sect anymore. Ji told the teacher that she had done it, and they were really listening to her. Lin replied that it was excellent, and he was pleased. But Lin became curious and asked how she felt with this will of the great luo tree. Z replied that she hadn't felt anything since waking up. Lin said that they should then escort them out and return to the Xuantian sect. Enemies of the Xuantian sect came to the Heavenly Ascension sect. The servants met the saint and asked what was wrong with him. Why did he look so battered? He was so full of energy when he left. What happened in the wilderness? Zhao was exhausted and couldn't even respond to people. The elders also ran out into the street and asked the saint what had happened to him. Zhao replied that he needed to see the teacher. The elder told the saint that he had heard the great teacher was currently in meditation. What had happened? Where were the elders and their companions? Zhao replied that they were all dead. The elder was surprised and asked who did this. Let them tell him so he could report it to the sect. Zhao didn't want to say anything, but he said it was the Xuantian sect and Peak Master Yi Ling. And outside the Heavenly Ascension sect's temple, people were asking, how is this possible? Did the elders die too? But who dared to kill the elders of the Heavenly Ascension sect? Even a saint almost died. This is truly an insult. Residents also reported breaking news. A breaking story has emerged in the eastern region. The guy was surprised and asked, was a saint of the Heavenly Ascension sect defeated by a red girl of the same level as himself? He was told that the Heavenly Ascension sect had lost 9 of its strongest elders. The killer was sect leader Xuantian Yi Ling. A guest from another sect in the tavern said that this world is changing. Barbarians from the wild region killed the strongest of the Heavenly Ascension sect. The guy told him that the Heavenly Ascension sect was strong, but if they clashed with them, this fight would be decided in advance. The girl also said that the Heavenly Ascension sect is the greatest power. It has given birth to immortals since ancient times. Their strength is not something that these barbarians can compare with. In the Eastern Region sect, in the Buddha temple in the capital, the senior monk said that the Heavenly Ascension sect had declared war on the Xuantian sect, and the Buddha temple must now avenge its blood. The monk replied that he understood and would pass it on to everyone. He then offered to gather all their forces to fight the demons. And in the wild region, after the destruction of the secret world, concentrated spiritual energy came out. So what's the beginning of this impoverished region's prosperity? Many creatures are now taking advantage of this to strengthen their powers. Since they took on 10,000 beings, the Xuantian sect's strength has grown significantly. But after the declaration of war, things will be difficult. In the martial arts square on the Xuan warrior sect's premises, he heard the Heavenly Ascension sect was attacking. But what about the Buddha temple? He heard they accused them of evil deeds. They told him it was strange since they hadn't seen the head or senior mentors for several days. Where were they? The guy replied that they were said to be in meditation. Ling is so strong, yet he still continues to meditate. This is a blessing for the Xuantian sect. At this time, at the peak of emptiness, Lin lay in the sun and did not even think about his affairs, and simply enjoyed the rest. Suddenly, Ji came and told the teacher that she had done it. She had instantly prepared an incredibly delicious drink. Lin was surprised and told her to quickly put the tube away. Z had already done so and handed it to the teacher. Lin immediately tried the drink and tasted it just right. He told her it was excellent work, and he'd let her make 50 more cups, and he could keep one for himself as a reward. Ji was surprised and replied that she was thanking the teacher. Lin understood that these drink recipes were earned through the daily assignment, and they're so much tastier than the ones of the past. Even the Ice King will appreciate his culinary masterpiece. Hong looked and said that his mentor was stupid and was even ready to make money from these strange drinks. Lin asked Hong where his fried squid was. How come it's not ready yet? Let him see how much she's going to do for him. He's even worse than a mouse. Hong told the teacher that everything was almost ready. He'd bring it right now. Presenting the food, he told the teacher to enjoy. Hong asked the teacher if everything was okay. Was there anything she needed to add? Lin replied that it was excellent and that she should continue in the same spirit. Hong suddenly asked his mentor if he could get permission to train in the sundial. He was so eager to develop faster. Lin asked him if he could see that he was being impatient again. Hong told the teacher that he wanted to become stronger, so that his sect would be even more secure. Lin told him not to worry. His sect was safe, and he was just staying with him and supporting him. At that moment, Hong thought his teacher was simply afraid he would be stronger than him. But she told the teacher that if his older brother wanted it so badly, he should go. She would take over his responsibilities. Lin stood up and said that since his sister was so insistent, he would allow him to train in the sundial, and he should thank her for it. Hong knelt down and replied that he was grateful to the teacher, and to she too, for asking for him. Lin, as he left, told them that he would go inside, and that they should continue preparing the food. Hong understood that the day he emerged from seclusion, the time would come when Lin would bow her head before him. Lin immediately noticed that Hong was already jumping up and down with anticipation. He thought he could turn the game around. But for him, this was just pity. The master only grew stronger when faced with a worthy opponent. So he needs to accept it and continue to invest in it, pumping up his cultivation level. Sai turned to the teacher. 50 new cups are ready, and may she drink this tea with the herbs of immortality? Lin told her that of course he could. He said that he could choose any cup. Ji was very happy about this and thanked the teacher. Lin suddenly remarked that other people pet cats, but he petted a mouse. After all, she felt wonderful to the touch. The mouse suddenly started trembling and asked, "Where is the cat?" And she's very afraid of cats. Lin said that Luo's ancient body was a complete waste. Even a cat was smaller than him. Besides, she had 10,000 fighters from the secret world under her protection, and he was still afraid of cats? She replied that the mouse was simply afraid. Lin asked her why she didn't go to the sundial to practice. Inside, 100 years passed like a single day in the outside world. Her ancient Luo body would have been significantly strengthened. Sai said the mouse doesn't want to. Then she won't see the teacher for ages, and she'll be sad. Besides, training is boring. The mouse loves hanging out with the teacher and eating treats. Lin started laughing, and he liked it. They were similar in that way. Unlike some. And by the way, they say that demons, having reached the stage of spirit transformation, can take on human form. Why then had he never seen her in human form? Ji replied that it was because the mouse had forgotten about it. Lin suggested that they try it right then. Ji said everything was fine. And then, unexpectedly, she turned into a mouse-like girl. Lin was surprised and replied that she was a miniature loli. But Lin was a little shocked and asked, "What the hell is going on?" Ji asked the teacher, "What happened? Does the mouse look bad?" Lin closed his eyes and said, "This is so bad. It's too scary." And he asked Shi, "Is she deliberately making fun of him?" Sai replied that it wasn't at all, and the mouse had tried very hard. But for some reason, she could only retain this appearance, and now she felt hurt. Lin suddenly told her not to worry, and asked her to transform back. Lin saw her coming and said that half a stick of incense had already passed, but he still had not transformed. Ji told the teacher that the mouse had suddenly forgotten how to do it. Lin asked, "Are you sure she's a mouse and not a pig?" The mouse told the teacher not to get angry. The mouse would try again. She'd definitely succeed in these days. But Ji asked the teacher if he wanted to continue petting the mouse. Lin replied that no, he wanted to be quiet. Sai ran to the water and looked, and said that it was very strange, but she looked quite cute. At this time, the border guard between the wild region and the spiritual region, ships were heading to the eastern region. Someone once said that the wrath of the eastern region's #1 immortal sect is a fury no one can bear. The Xuantian sect is doomed. But they told him that this used to be so arrogant. Now he would die in agony. And he was sure that now he was so afraid he'd already gone silent. But suddenly a servant came in and told the young master that the battle had begun. And there was already fighting outside. The gentleman began insulting him and told him to explain properly. Who's fighting whom? Otherwise, he'd wring his neck and throw him in a cesspool to feed the maggots. The servant said it was the heavenly Ascension sect. Their troops just invaded the wild region. The master emerged from his room and asked the servant what he had said. He was delighted that the heavenly Ascension sect had finally arrived, and these pathetic savages dared to stand against him. He knew their days were numbered. What a sight it would be! Right now, in the wild region, the master of the mountain-moving sect is saying that a huge army is advancing on them. How many cultivators are involved? The elder told the old man that he begged him not to be a hero this time. If there was no way out, he should just run. After all, he is their strongest protector, a symbol of faith for all local cultivators. If he perishes, it will be an irreparable loss. But at the Xuantian sect, the training grounds were already prepared, shouting, "The enemy is at the gate! Get everyone ready! They're already under attack! Where's their leader?" Zhao said that after 500 years of hard training, he was just a little short of achieving fusion steel. And it seems to him that simply closing himself off in seclusion is not enough for a breakthrough. Su said he should be happy. If it weren't for the techniques and pills bestowed upon him by his younger brother Ye, he wouldn't have progressed a single step in these 500 years, even if B had lived his entire lifespan. The warriors asked, "Where is the leader? Why hasn't he come out yet?" The leader came out and said that battle was inevitable. All they could do was fight to the end. Luckily, he managed to break through to the fusion stage before the battle. And suddenly, he saw a shadow in the fire and asked, "Is someone coming? But who is it?" This aura is frighteningly strong, even surpassing that of his younger brother Ye. And suddenly, Hong himself appeared from the fire. Zhao said that this was his senior disciple, and a worthy disciple of the great teacher. His talent was simply prodigious, and he asked him to tell him what stage he had reached. But Hong got angry and said, "How dare he? What kind of insolent words are these?" Without further ado, he immediately attacked him. Su told Hong that his elder brother had merely misspoke. They were, after all, disciples of the same sect. Why fight? Hong asked, "A disciple of a certain sect?" And suddenly he began laughing loudly. He was the greatest master of the demonic path, a true immortal. And how could such pathetic ants as they count on his patronage? If it weren't for Lin, he wouldn't have wasted his time here. But now everything has changed. Su got angry and said he's completely lost his mind from training. He should watch his mouth, or he'll complain to his younger brother Ye. Hong told her to do whatever she wanted. He was nothing to him. After all, he couldn't even take care of himself right now. If he can, bring him here. With his current strength, who will tame whom is still a question. Hong added that such an incomparable treasure, instead of wasting it here, it would be better to hand it over to him. Zhao was surprised, and, calling him impudent, asked what he was doing. Was he really not afraid that junior brother Ye would punish him? But Hong gave them no chance and shouted for them all to leave. He then blew fire from himself and headed towards his men. The leader was surprised and said, "What a powerful spiritual force!" He didn't expect that even with his fusion stage breakthrough, he couldn't withstand the pressure alone. Who is this disciple of junior brother Ye? Hong looked and said it was a crowd of insignificant insects. But suddenly, he became surprised and asked, "What's going on? Why hadn't the sundial moved even a centimeter?" The leader shouted at Hong that he was junior brother Yi's disciple, the greatest genius of their sect, and the sect had always supported him. Why would he stoop to such vile acts? Hong got angry when he heard about the non-entity and asked who he was to teach him. Hong didn't listen and attacked immediately. The leader stood up and asked, "What kind of power is this?" The disciple had only struck him lightly, and he couldn't even fight back. And the difference from who he was before entering the sundial is simply colossal. Hong grew angry and asked why such a small fry dared tell him what to do. He didn't kill them right away. That was a great mercy on his part. The leader said the Ascension sect's army has arrived. Yi Ling, the main culprit. Let him come out immediately and accept his death. Hong rushed to attack and said, "Just in time." And it was time to deal with this man. The leader also told his men to hurry up and leave. And he needs to be stopped. But Lin was resting all this time and said that freely drinking tea with milk is what makes life worth living. Ah Hong understood what a disgrace it was for a cultivator. Such a lazy attitude, and he called himself immortal. It was just a stroke of luck. He'd accidentally received the highest blessing, which is how he acquired so many rare techniques and priceless resources. But now it's all his. Lin saw his student finally emerge from seclusion. The teacher had missed him so much. Hong replied that the Heavenly Ascension sect had arrived. Outside, a battle for his life was already raging, and yet he seemed to be resting peacefully. Wasn't he afraid of dying? Lin asked if they'd already attacked. Why hadn't he known anything? Hong replied that he was enjoying his cozy little world behind the soundproof barrier, and he's trying to dissuade me from this world. Of course he heard nothing. And now let him listen carefully. The enemies were already approaching and shouting for Lin to come out and accept his death. Lin was drinking his tea at that moment, and hearing the screams, shouted that the war had already begun. Hong said he could see the situation himself, but if he gave him everything he had, he thought about saving him. Lin was surprised and asked him what he was talking about. Hong shouted at him not to play dumb. They were smart people, so he had to speak frankly. Suddenly, a mouse came running, and Hun, seeing it, told them to stop the planet and asked what it was. Ji approached the teacher and said that these were the very same chicken wings he had asked her to make for him, and they were spicy, so let him try them. And when she saw her older brother, Kuna asked if he had come out of seclusion so quickly, but Hong got a little scared and told her to stay put. And he thought it was that same white rat. And why had it changed so much? This appearance looks creepy. And I wondered, what the hell is the mentor's strange tastes? He understands everything, of course, but this is beyond the pale of good, evil, and common sense. And Lin, at that moment, was wondering what that look was about? Surely he wasn't thinking about anything like that. He was a noble man, after all. The leader also arrived at the peak and asked the rebellious disciple what he intended to do to his teacher. He then shouted at his younger brother Yi to be careful, but when they saw a girl with a mouse's head next to them, they were very scared and shocked by what they saw. Ji told them not to be afraid, and it was just her, a mouse. The leader took a closer look and told the boys that it was junior brother Ye's second apprentice, and of course, her appearance was frightening. And not only does younger brother Ye have outstanding talent, but his taste is so exquisite that they could never even dream of it. Lin told them to stop immediately and asked what they were even talking about. And why were they all so tense? What happened? The leader told his younger brother that his eldest disciple was plotting treason. He had tried to take the sundial and even attacked them. Lin was surprised and asked his student if this was true. Hong replied that even if it were true, what would the master do to him? The army is already here. His death is inevitable. He still doesn't understand the situation he finds himself in. The leader, hearing his words, began to say that he was a damned traitor, and that junior brother Ye had treated him so well. Hong asked him in return, what did they even understand? He understood that they had been treating him like a servant all this time. He couldn't stand it anymore. Lin grabbed his face after this and said it was karma. He told the others not to blame him. It was his fault, and he had disregarded his students' feelings, and it was all his fault. And how he regretted it. Sai approached the teacher after what she saw and took his hand. The leader looked at his younger brother and said he'd never seen him like this. Hong also asked the mentor if he thought he'd believe this crocodile's remorse. Let the mentor continue to pretend. But it's too late. He's seen his true face. Lin told his student that he realized his mistake. Could he forgive him? They were teacher and student after all. Maybe they could start over. Hong told his mentor not to even dream of it. He was already disgusted by him. The system immediately reported that the master had successfully completed the temporary task, and she sincerely admits her mistake, pouring all her emotions into it, and evokes the empathy of those around her, the reward of an immortal master's technique. Lin was delighted to finally have completed the task. What a strange task it had been. But the reward was worth it, so it wasn't for nothing that he had put on this show. Lin thought about it after that, and decided that since the task was completed, now he could have a little fun. But the thought that the mouse drank tea with milk for monthly tickets, and her spiritual strength increased sharply. She even wanted to take on Lolly's appearance to win his favor. But Sai realized that the teacher didn't like that, and now she realizes that she needs more milk tea to boost her spiritual power. Lin told Hong that he knew that once he became his teacher, he would always remain his mentor. He decided to continue teasing him and see how long he could endure it. If he actually attacked, he'd assume it was his own desire to make him stronger. But then he turned his attention to Sai and asked her to come over and release his shoulders. Sai immediately agreed to the teacher's words and began to carry out the order. But Zhao was shocked and asked his brother if junior brother Ye was so depressed that he had developed a split personality. But Su was extremely angry at his words and told him to shut up and talk nonsense. But Hong was confused, not understanding what his teacher was planning. Lin turned to him and said that Hong had spent 200 years in seclusion at the sun chronometer and now decided that he had become all-powerful. Hong told the teacher to stop talking nonsense, let him give him everything he had, and he'd think about whether to help him. But if he refused, he'd rot here forever at his hands. Zhao listened and told the leader that this man was still willing to help them, which meant he had at least a shred of conscience left. And now the fate of the battle was being decided, and if he intervened, perhaps they could turn the tide. The leader replied that everything depended on the decision of Yi's younger brother. Lin, sipping his lemonade, asked his student if he was sure that he was now stronger than his mentor. Hong replied that he had been constantly holding him back, wasting his precious time. But over the past 200 years, he had significantly surpassed him in both strength and skill in the solar chronometer. And, having let out his anger, he ordered him to decide quickly and not delay with it. After all, the Heavenly Ascension Sect's fleet is already approaching the soaring peak. Or should he take its treasures and technology by force? Ji was very scared and saw that her older brother Hu was scary and very hot-tempered. Zhao also saw that Hong was truly a wolf in sheep's clothing. He wanted to deprive his brother Yi of all his opportunities. And then he decided that he would help his younger brother Yi. And he launched his attack on him, which came from the sky. But Hong didn't like this at all, and letting out his anger, told him how dare he do this. Hong didn't think for long, but immediately made a counterattack and reflected straight in the other direction. Zhao was shocked and said that their attack had been reflected back, and they should dodge immediately. But the attack was so fast and lightning fast that it directly destroyed the ship from which the attack was carried out. The soldiers couldn't understand what had happened and asked, "Who did this? Let him come out immediately and accept his death." Hong was angry that someone had dared to interfere with him at that moment. But Lin was still no match for him. His resources would sooner or later be his, and he decided to deal with those pesky flies first. He went out to meet them and told them he'd done it. So what would they do now? The senior mentor of the Heavenly Ascension inner sect responded that he was a woman, and how dare he speak so impudently. And now the senior mentor would teach him some manners. The senior mentor charged, shouting at him to prepare to die immediately. But Hong replied that he was an ungrateful insect. Hong did not tolerate such disrespect towards himself, and immediately used his fire attack and easily removed him from his path. Hong said they had half a stick of time incense to get away from this land. Otherwise, death would overtake them. The elders were shocked, saying this was sheer audacity. He thinks he can give orders to the #1 immortal sect in the Eastern Realm, even if the Fire Elder fell at his hands? Did he really expect to defeat dozens, or even hundreds, of fusion stage cultivators? The Elder turned to his brothers and ordered them to kill her. And now the Zhuentian sect must be wiped off the face of the earth. Hong replied that since they did not want to leave on good terms, then he would arrange a bloodbath for them. And he unleashed soul-devouring flames and attacked his enemies with corpses from another world. And these fusion stage senior mentors, they haven't even exchanged blows, and already a third of them are dead. Countless green skulls, like locusts, rage across the battlefield. The enemies were caught in the crossfire, each screaming in pain. But the elder told them not to let it bite them because it was poison. At that moment, many members of the Heavenly Ascension sect perished in the hellfire. Their screams, groans, and pleas for help filled the sky. But suddenly, the monks came and told their friends that the floating Buddha temple had come to their aid. Hong heard their words and replied, "More suicides." The elder monk thought the report said Lena's disciple was only in the spirit transformation stage. But what was this terrible chaos? The wisdom master from the floating Buddha temple, a perfect peak of the fusion stage, wondered if he really had some incredible technique. And if his disciple was so powerful, then Lin himself must be far more terrifying. And once they had arrived, there was no turning back. And immediately, they all began to attack at once. Hong looked at them and attacked them with a counterattack, saying that those lying bald monks have come again. He released all his mana to destroy the monks all at once and not toy with them anymore. The monks were shocked by the blow and asked why their seals couldn't extinguish this strange fire. Then they saw the devil approaching them. The monk was so scared that he told the boy not to do it. After all, this was his first time on the battlefield. But Hong was ruthless about this and used all his strength to finish off the bald monks. The elder was surprised that the boy and his army of tens of thousands of disciples had vanished with a single blow. And now everything was lost. He wondered who the Heavenly Ascension sect had attacked. The elder monk was surprised and told the boy he was a demon and that Buddha would not forgive him. He then launched a massive palm attack, but Hong was not ready to stop and replied that even if the Buddha himself appeared, he would crush him into dust. At that moment, the senior monk saw fire in his eyes that was approaching him, and immediately there was an explosion. Hong was prepared for anything and said they were just pathetic little bugs. The leader told junior brother Ye that his disciple possessed a terrifying talent, and he's afraid that their Xuantian sect is too small to accommodate such a formidable deity. Zhao also told his brother that she was now protecting their sect, and it was better to fulfill his conditions than to try to go against him. And the main thing now was to survive. Ji also said that big brother Hong was so strong, and she rejoiced at his strength, shouting at him not to retreat. Lin noticed that his student had truly made progress during his time in seclusion. Now he wanted to examine him with the eye of insight. Lin used his vision and saw that his cultivation was half a step away from the great transition stage. And now he knows that his disciple has almost reached the great transition stage. Of course, it's no surprise that he now dared to challenge his master. He needs to wait until he's dealt with his enemies before absorbing him for his own breakthrough. Suddenly, a strange manna gathered around them, and the elders shouted that these were their elders, and they were all greeting their venerable mentors. The leader looked at all this and asked in surprise, "Mentors?" And they brought 18 senior cultivators of the Great Transition stage. And this is the true power of the Eastern region's #1 immortal sect. Is Tian destined to perish because of him? But these 18 mentors are the main military force of the Heavenly Ascension sect. They once joined forces and crushed the Northern Sea Demon Emperor, bringing down the Southern Church of Extermination, and thus they earned the title of Invincible Immortals of the Eastern Realm. Lin sounded surprised and said that half a step before the Great Transition was one thing, but the true stage of the Great Transition sounded far more enticing. One of the Great Transition perfected spiritual windmasters thought for a moment and said, "What useless cowards! They've dishonored the good name of the Heavenly Ascension sect." Master Golden Snake also responded that the most worthy and powerful sect in the Eastern region had been beaten by some girl. If they hadn't personally arrived to oversee the situation, wouldn't they have become a laughingstock to the entire world? Hong looked at them and asked, "Who the hell are they? And how dare they speak so rudely about him?" The Golden Land's mentor became angry and asked the boy what he just said. The chief elders of the Heavenly Ascension sect told the Golden Snake Master that she should not waste her energy on someone who was already doomed. This half-baked cultivator, half a step away from the Great Transition stage, thinks he can stop them. The second elder also replied that he was absolutely right, and this overconfident Lin, instead of fighting personally, sent his disciple. Wasn't he underestimating them too much? The third elder said that his disciple would be put to death first, and this venerable one longs to see if pain will pierce his heart as he, hiding, witnesses her death. Hong shouted at them to get out of here, and he had no connection with him. The elder laughed and replied that this was a touching affection between a teacher and a student. Let them seize her, and he would disfigure her face and then rip out her tongue. The elders attacked him, shouting at him for his insolence. And under his azure-colored palm, thousands of souls perished. Today, he will vanish without a trace. The second elder also said that he could crush 10 of his kind with just one hand. The third elder also chimed in and said that today he would sacrifice his head on the sword. Perhaps this would awaken the blade's true spirit. Hong laughed and asked, "A sacrifice to the sword? And maybe they'll let him show them what real hell is like." He thought that once he dealt with these insects, he would see if Lin would find any more excuses to hide her strength. Hong used his huge hand attack and easily repelled their vile and weak blows. The elders tried to resist, but they could do nothing against him because they considered it impossible. And one of them asked how an ordinary cultivator, half a step away from the Great Transition, could stop them all. His azure bird celestial palm had absorbed the soul of an ancient demon, but Hong didn't stop and continued to press them. Eventually, the elder screamed that his firmament had split and collapsed. This devilish fire even burns the souls of swords. One of the warriors looked on and said that she was only half a step away from the Great Transition, but she was able to push back 3 elders who were already at the stage of the Great Transition. But the elder answered the same thing. He did not think that such a rare genius could be born in this abandoned land. The second snake elder said that then this girl should certainly not be left alive, and altogether they would kill her. One of the elders immediately used the great obelisk palm in her attack. The second elder used the star-pulling hand, and the third elder used the dragon-suppressing combat style. But Hun was not at all intimidated by this, and in response to their several attacks, he used only blazing dragon fire. The fire was so light and terrible that it slowly passed over the attacks of the enemies and easily killed each of them. From below, the chief watched and said he never imagined Hong could fight against so many elders. But Zhang replied that it seemed his flame was weakening, and it looks like he's already at his limit. And if he doesn't dodge this attack, he'll be cut in half. Hong looked at this attack as his light training and immediately used Hellfire-destroying flame. The red dragon emerged from the blazing fire and easily sank its sharp teeth into the enemy's attack. Then it used the absorption technique. Hong asked, "Is this all the Heavenly Ascension sect can do? They should change their name to the Useless sect." The elders were shocked by what they saw and said that it was some kind of strange flame, but it was absorbing all their techniques. One of them said that holding off 15 mentors alone was impossible, and even he had never seen such talent in his entire life. But the Fear Elder asked them, "Are they blind? This is clearly a demonic technique. They must destroy this witch immediately, or she will become a disaster." Hong addressed her as an old witch and asked if she would come out and fight him personally. He would give her 3 blows, so she wouldn't say later that he had attacked a cripple. The old woman accepted his challenge and called him a brat, and when she rips his mouth open, she'll see if he can still speak so insolently. The elder also said that if he were left alive, in 100 years he would become the greatest threat to the eastern region, and he must be destroyed, along with his soul. They all approached the dragon from the side at once and began to use their strongest clan techniques. Hong was angry and saw that this was all because of Lin. If only he had handed over his treasure to him earlier. And who would have thought that the Heavenly Ascension sect would send 18 Great Transition Masters to exterminate some pathetic sect? Isn't that like hunting a sparrow with a cannon? The elder came very close to him and began shouting that it was time to end it, and he unleashed his Heavenly Overlord strike. The attack was so unexpected that Hong didn't even have time to see it before he felt the blow and fell to the ground. Si was frightened and asked if Hong's elder brother was okay. And Lin turned to him and said that he had said earlier that he could win. So why was he lying around like a beaten dog? He was so disappointed in him. Hong became angry and asked his mentor how he dared to mock him any longer. At least he would be able to leave here alive, while his mentor would be left here to die. But suddenly, the elders used a strange mechanism that opened a bright light above the clan. The elder told them that as long as he was here, none of them would leave the Xuantian sect. The chief began shouting that it was a spatial compass. Zhao asked his elder brother if he remembered what the ancient chronicles said. After all, 300 years ago, during the Northern Sea disaster, Elder Spiritual Wind used this compass to evaporate a third of the Northern Sea, destroying 100,000 demons. And they say he even sealed an ancient demon god. They don't even have a chance to escape. Hong was angry and wondered if he would really die with these worthless creatures. But he wouldn't accept it. The leader suddenly asked why younger brother Yi was so calm. Hong started yelling at him that he was eating here and everyone was dying, and all he did was eat. Lin looked at Z and told her that she really did have a talent for cooking, and next time, he wanted to try the honey flavor. Z asked the teacher if there would even be a next time. Lin didn't keep him waiting and replied, "Of course!" And, rising to the elders, he immediately stood before them. The elder, seeing Lin, said he'd finally deigned to come out. Lin replied that he understood they'd trampled his disciple, but that wasn't fair. As his teacher, he was obligated to stand up for him. Hong, hearing these words, became even more enraged and slandered him. The elders said his fate was sealed. He would flay him, break his bones, and scatter his ashes to the wind. The old woman was also surprised, saying that the main culprit, Lin, had appeared. And although the reports indicated he was only in the fusion stage, if his disciple was so powerful, things were clearly not so simple with him. The elders all gathered at once and, drawing their swords, attacked him, shouting for him to die. But suddenly the system worked and said that an enemy attack had been detected at the stage of the Great Transition. And now the passive effect is activated. The stronger the enemy, the stronger you are. And the middle stage of the Great Transition has been reached. Lin used his new technique on the elders and finally said that they were too weak. The leader was surprised and shouted that his younger brother Yi was a true Great Transition cultivator. A future immortal had long since appeared in their sect. Hong also didn't believe it, calling it nonsense. Hong realized he was still weak and wondered how much power his mentor was still hiding. Was he even playing by the rules? The elders immediately stopped and said this was a great transition, and he had long since reached this stage. But Lin began to laugh at them and asked if he had disappointed them with his level of fusion. The old woman shouted that even if the data was wrong, he was only in the middle stages of the Great Transition, a mere ant before the storm, and she ordered everyone to attack. She ordered everyone to immediately form up for battle, and decided to use her blood as a sacrifice to the sword. 15-fold heavenly punishment. But Lin looked at this whole map and just started smiling at them, because he didn't care about them, and he understood that he was 1,000 times stronger than them. Everyone saw the flow of power at once, and the chief asked, "Why isn't junior brother Ye resisting?" The 15 Heavenly Punishment Sword formation is capable of defeating even a Grand Ascension Peak cultivator, and Hong momentarily wondered what this guy was doing now. Was he giving up? Lin asked the elders if that was all they could do. He couldn't even trim a single hair on his body. He understood that this Undying Tyrant's body technique was truly something special. It could attack so many Great Ascension opponents. The elders shouted that it was impossible. Even Great Ascension experts were struggling against the 15 heavens performing the Swarp formation. So how does a mid-stage Great Ascension cultivator withstand this attack? Ahong saw that it was just as he'd expected. This guy must have some ridiculous opportunity hidden away, and he had to steal it. The elder approached him, and after examining him, declared that he wasn't a Great Ascension stage MIP cultivator. But who was he? Then Lin turned into a true warrior and asked why the dead man was speaking to him. He immediately attacked the enemy. Lin didn't play around with them, and with one true blow, he took off the elder's head with his fists. But he did not stop there, and continued to pass through the other elders, completely exterminating them from the world. One of the elders said that this bastard was too fast, and he begged the great elder to save them. But Lin released the flames from his hands and headed towards the other suicide bombers to completely get rid of them. With his final move, He went all out and blew up all the elders. But just before his final blow, the chief elder of all the clans and the most powerful warrior stopped. The boys rejoiced at their rescue and thanked the elder for his intervention. But that's not a bad thing either, as the blow was heavy, but he's still holding up. Lin looked at him and laughed, and said that he would now see how long he could last. The elder knew that his specialty was body refinement, and he even had a beast imprint that strengthened it. But this blow almost pierced through him, and if he gets hit again, he won't be able to hold on. Lin saw that the old woman was still there, and said that this cutie wants to join in the fun too. The old woman said that she didn't believe that the boy would be able to withstand the attacks of 3 Grand Ascension Peak cultivators. One of the elders immediately used a chaotic breath destruction attack after that. The strongest elder shouted to his brother and said that he would watch him take another one of their techniques. Suddenly, the system worked, and told the owner that he would encounter opponents in the late stage of the Great Ascension. And by activating the passive ability, Strength Through Adversity, the Ascension Master can now climb to the peak of the Great Ascension. The elder, seeing that he had become stronger again, said with surprise that this was impossible. His cultivation had increased several times, and now they realized the sex information was wrong, and Lin is a Great Ascension Peak cultivator. And now they've all been wiped out. Lin told them that since they had all given him such wonderful attacks, now let him repay them in kind. The old woman said that at the moment, they had no choice but to activate the sex-forbidden secret art. The elder replied that he agreed with her, and the honor of the Feathered Immortal sect depended on this battle. They could not lose. The elder shouted at the boy that he had forced them to use the technique of the ancestors of the sex founders, and he should be flattered by that. And this is the exclusive secret art of the legendary Tao imprint Immortal Feathered Sect, and it was created by the sect's founder himself. This is the foundation of the existence of the sect of Feathered Immortals, and those who activate it will temporarily gain a power akin to the immortal realm of emptiness. And now Lin is truly dead. Hong thought and understood that this secret technique was as mysterious as those seen by the great sects in the central house. The leader was also shocked and asked, "Is this one of the powerful techniques? How long have the Immortal Feathers sect had them? And let the younger brother be careful." The elder began to shout that this was the power of their secret art, and he felt his whole body being filled with boundless power. But another elder said they didn't have time, and they all knew how much it cost to maintain this technology, and there was no turning back now. The elders collectively declared that as long as they could destroy this sect, they didn't care if they crippled their own foundation, and they unleashed a magnificent destruction technique. Lin looked at all this and replied that now it was finally getting interesting, and he summoned his manifestation of the Heavenly Emperor. Lin stood over them, called them ants, and told them to kneel, and then he knocked them all down at once. Hong was shocked, because he saw that this was the very manifestation from the secret realm. It really was him. And this kind of pressure, it was even more terrifying than the ancient gods and demons from the abyss. The elders were shocked when they saw the art of divine manifestation, because they had never seen anything like it. Lin told them to watch carefully, because the real battle was about to begin. The old woman asked the boy if he was trying to scare her, but she had actually seen a lot. Lin, hearing her words, simply smiled and unleashed a sky-splitting finger attack. He slashed straight at her with incredible speed. The elder, seeing this, started shouting at the others to run. After all, he really is a demon, and the Immortal Feather sect must survive. After all, he's definitely a reincarnated void immortal monster. Lin said the art of destroying reincarnation specializes in dealing with people like them, and no need to thank him. He'll scatter their ashes for free. Lin used his power and rolled over them like a steamroller. He could only hear them crying out for help. The elder said that he had just torn a Grand Ascension cultivator apart with his bare hands. Lin approached them and began to pursue them. The elders were very frightened by his appearance and began to run away. Lin grabbed them with both hands and asked, "Did they think they could escape?" The elder shouted that he was a demon, The weak, immoral secret would never forgive him, and a great demon appeared in the Wasteland province. But Lin didn't spare them, and as he burned them alive, he said that if they hadn't wanted to die so much, it would have ended this way. As befits the highest divine art, although it certainly burns up energy. And now, it's time for him to deal with his cowardly disciple. Lin slowly descended to the ground and looked into his student's eyes. But Hong already knew he was doomed. Zhao was delighted to see his brother, and, calling him boss, asked if he needed an assistant. After all, he could hang around. Su immediately stepped out in front of him and told little brother Ye that he had worked hard and could let big sister give him a shoulder massage. The leader also approached and said that this battle had finally allowed her to see his true strength. And how much longer was he going to keep them in the dark? Lin told them to listen to his words and told them to remain humble. After all, a true expert remains humble. Hong saw how everyone was thanking his mentor and realized that at this rate, he would never be able to get rid of them. And that vile bastard. He still possessed the peak power of the Great Ascension, yet he continued to pretend to be a body integration realm cultivator. He'd never seen anything like it in his life. Lin saw his student and asked if he was still there. Hong was surprised and thought he was being kicked out. Lin turned to his elder brother Zhao and asked if he wouldn't mind grinding it into a paste. Then they could use it to fertilize his phoenix tree. Zhao had already prepared himself and replied that he thought it was a good plan. Hong, hearing these words, fell to his knees and begged for mercy. And he was ready to atone for his guilt. And he asked his mentor to give him another chance. Lin asked him if he'd been acting cool before. What had happened? Hong replied that he'd been arrogant and short-sighted, and he asked his mentor for another chance. Lin immediately told him to start spanking himself, and he would tell him when to stop. Hong was shocked by this order and slowly raised his hand, saying he would do everything, and to begin striking immediately. Lin understood that despite Hong's perverted nature, his potential was limitless. And if he follows him correctly, he will definitely be able to truly create his own sect and become its leader. The leader approached them and told them that betraying the sect was punishable by death. However, in the end, he defended the Profound Sky sect, and the question of atonement can be considered. He suggests exiling him to the back mountain to reflect. And what does the younger brother think about this? Lin agreed and replied that he could spare his life, but punishment was inevitable. Let him head to the back mountain and reflect on his sins. Hong was already completely beaten, and with a swollen face, he bowed and immediately ran to the back mountain. The leader told his brother that his student was keeping him on his toes, and frankly, only he could keep him in check. Without him, he wouldn't even look at them. But Zhao said that, given his talent, they should be grateful he remained in the Profound Sky sect at all. And realistically, it was all thanks to junior brother Yi. Lin replied that it was his fault for not keeping him in check, and not to worry, he would raise him properly from now on. In fact, he just loves watching Hong struggle to contain his anger while smiling. It's priceless. After all this, he went to his hammock and told Sai that his master was craving hot cutlets. The mouse replied that she understood everything and was in. At this time, in the backyard of the Deep Sky sect, Hong was saying that it was impossible for a master to always have luck, and if he trains diligently, he will surpass the peak of the Great Ascension and even reach the highest realm. At that time, in the Eastern Demon Kingdom of Buddhism, people were saying, "This can't be true." After all, Lin of the Profound Sky sect is actually a great Ascension cultivator, and he even wiped out all 18 elders of the Immortal Feathers sect. The monk replied that, in fact, a 1,000,000-strong army of cultivators had been wiped out. One of them got angry and said that his brother served in that army, and he thought he would take care of his sister-in-law. The monk replied that he was such a bloodthirsty demon, and they too would see that this rickety old devil was bearing divine punishment. Now he was the most wanted man in the Eastern domain. On the Eastern Demon of the Province of Spirits, one of the warriors screamed that it was impossible. This Barbartan from the Wastes had not only survived, he had slain the entire Alted army. And now, by law, he owes it to the reincarnated immortals. He was glad he hadn't fought that day, otherwise he would have certainly died. The warrior told his servant to quickly find him more female cultivators. He needed to calm his nerves. Why was he just sitting there? He told him to go. Or let him call his mother here. It would be more fun. In the feathered immortal sect, the headmaster asked a servant if he was certain of his words. The servant told the young master that it was true. Everyone in the Eastern House is talking about it. The feathered immortal sect has suffered a crushing defeat. But the young master couldn't bear it any longer and started shouting that Lin was a schemer. He'd been a great Ascension all along, but was hiding his cultivation just to play with him. In fact, he thought that by reaching the realm of body integration, he would finally be able to compete with him. But it turned out that was simply wishful thinking. Elder Mo told the young master not to lose hope. This white-haired devil was probably an ancient monster that had been around for thousands of years. And for him, the Great Ascension is the end. But for the master, it's only the beginning. The master replied that it was precisely so, and he needed to ascend. The master asked, how can he? And so what if Lin had achieved the Great Ascent? He would achieve it too. The master embraced Elder Mo and ordered him to immediately report to the higher-ups. He had decided to awaken the Supreme Treasure Yang ahead of schedule. Elder Mo was surprised and told the young master that he couldn't do that. It would be better for him to change his mind. The gentleman told the old man to trust him. He has only one goal, and that is power. The solar true flame is destined for him. It is destiny, and he will be reborn in nirvana. Elder Mo said he would report as his master requested, and let him prepare. The master was so angry with Lin that he saw him in his dreams, and next time he would finish him off. 3 months later, Lin was relaxing on a misty peak and told Hong he wanted a glass of 1982 Lafite. Hong replied that he would have it in a moment. Pouring himself a glass of wine, he told his mentor to enjoy his drink. Lin took a sip and declared it very good. Hong was so angry, he saw that this was just another crazy episode. When will this guy finally stop acting like a maniac, he thought. Suddenly, I received a notification from the system saying that the daily registration had been updated. Would the owner like to sign up? Lin thought for a moment, but didn't answer. And then the system congratulated the owner again, as he'd hit the jackpot and received an ultimate mount. Lin jumped up from his chair and asked, "What?" Then Hong began hitting himself and bowing, even telling the master he was mistaken. Lin told the system not to keep him in suspense. And what was this attachment? The system replied that although he was still small, he had already reached the level of Great Ascension, and let its master take care of it. It is an ancient divine beast with limitless potential, one of the most powerful creatures in the world, and it can fly freely in the skies and sail the seas effortlessly. Lin saw it and realized it was a beautiful cultivator, but he deserved a majestic mountain. And a kunpeng is the dream horse of every cultivation protagonist. Hong saw his face and was shocked by the thought. He couldn't understand why he was always so lucky. And he didn't even look angry. This guy was so mad. Suddenly, Ji came in unexpectedly and shouted to the master that the head of the sect had received the invigoration and ordered her to bring it to him. Ling looked and said it was an invitation to the Shui clan's banquet in the Spirit Province. He'd heard that this old man had recently broken through to the tribute realm and shaken the entire Eastern world. But to invite the profound Sky Sect at a time like this? Clearly, he simply wants to test his strength and establish his dominance. Hong heard this and said that the Shui clan's ancestor was now a pseudo-immortal. He was as strong as a true immortal, but still far superior to them. And considering how many enemies the profound Sky Sect had made recently, wouldn't this banquet be extremely dangerous? Lin replied that he'd never heard of such a thing and would agree to attend. Lin thought about the pseudo-immortal. And he watches as problems arise here, and he gets away with it. And this is a great opportunity to show off his new mount. The system responded immediately that a new West had been launched. The owner was to attend the Shui clan's banquet on his steed. Successfully shocking the crowd would earn a special reward. Lin told the system he was just in time. His heart ached with the desire to do a great job. Sai asked the owner when they were leaving. Lin didn't waste any more time and told her that he would do it right now. but Hong wondered why his mentor was so confident. Suddenly, Lin decided to demonstrate this and snapped his fingers. Suddenly, the sky began to tremble and a wind appeared. The animals sensed danger and began to act very ominously. But the people also asked, "What's going on? Were the animals attacking them again?" The leader said it was a great Ascension-level supreme beast. But where did such a thing come from? Perhaps the immortal avian sect sent it? But they replied that it didn't matter where he came from. Let them immediately activate the sect's protective array. The leader and the other guys used force, and the deep heavenly hectare was activated, and the sect's array was launched. Hong was also shocked and didn't understand what was happening. But Ji was terrified and screamed that it was a monster. A Ling saw and felt that this was not bad, and this was his juvenile form. And if this Kunpeng reached full growth, even those 18 elders wouldn't stand a chance. And if a beast of that level attacks this sect, it will surely be destroyed. Lin asked Hong if he could see it. And this karma is specifically for him. Hong was shocked and couldn't understand what was happening to his mentors. Had he really gone crazy? Was he really studying with them? Lin rose into the air to meet his friend. And Hong asked, "What is he doing?" Was he trying to die and take them with him? But upon seeing the true body with his own eyes, he said it was impossible. Lin caressed his friend and told him he was a good boy, and he decided to call him Kun. And from that moment on, he was with him. The leader was shocked and asked what he was seeing. Had little brother Ye just tamed him with a single gesture? Zhao replied that no, and it seemed more likely that the beast already knew him. Su also said that this creature corresponded to the ancient Kunpeng, a mythical beast recorded in ancient texts. The leader said, since they were talking about it, he remembered reading about it too. A fully grown Kunpeng can devour planets and roam the multiverse. But that's much less than the legends say. Zhao replied that it was probably because he was still young. If he fully matured, his strength would be beyond imagination. Lin told them not to panic, and this was his mount. The leader asked, "Is this ancient beast his mount?" And the younger brother must now be blessed by the heavens. This must be fate. A Hong saw that even the wisest Kunlun immortals thought this was unexpected. But he not only showed up, he voluntarily became Mount Lina. And for him, this is simply absurd. But why him? This lazy slacker does nothing, yet fate continues to bless him. And he, a true cultivator who trained tirelessly, making his way to power, is forced to humiliate himself at his feet. Lin told the sect leader that they were ready to leave, and with Kun accompanying them, there was no need to worry. Lin looked and said something was missing, and after trying a few techniques himself, he figured it out. He immediately staked his house on his friend. Lin shouted that it was wonderful, and this was his new home. The leader looked on and was shocked by what he saw. Lin told them to board the ship, and they were off. Sai replied that she was coming too, and told her elder brother Hong that the master was calling them. Hong is angry and admits that fate favors the strong, but he refuses to be someone's pawn forever, and if he waits for the right moment, he'll steal his luck and make it his own. And as long as he refuses to give up, anything is possible. The leader finally asked, "Will junior brother Ye really be okay at the Shui clan banquet?" This ancestor is a pseudo-immortal. Su told him he was worrying too much. And had little brother Ye ever needed their attention? Zhao replied, yes, and frankly, he'd be grateful if he didn't cause chaos. The leader said the Zhu clan thought they could push them away, but now the tiger itself is walking right to their doorstep. They might regret this invitation. At this time, in the Spirit Province, the floating island of the Shui clan, all the residents and invited people from the clans were heading to the ceremony. It was said that the Shui clan's founder had become a pseudo-immortal, and now these aristocrats were flocking to them. And it's a good thing a big stage needs a big audience. But on the main island of the Shui clan, at the main residence of the Shui clan, the guests shouted that they were congratulating the pseudo-immortal of the Shui clan, and he would have divine protection for the next 300,000 years. But seriously, if he becomes truly immortal, he could live for over 1,000,000 years. And does young Master Shui agree? Young Master Shui replied that they were flattering him, and not to worry, the Shui clan would take care of its allies. But the people asked, "Did the Shui clan invite the Profound Sky sect?" Shui replied, "Of course. But do they think they'll dare to show up? Or they better not send random people to brush them off. Otherwise, they won't even let them through the gates." The elder asked, "What if Ling himself comes?" The young master replied that he would be spared this village oaf, and he would finally be able to witness the might of the Shu clan. One of the elders said that young Master Shui was groaning loudly in anger, and this Mr. Ling was certainly a respectable man, but when it came to his young Master Shui, even they had to obediently approach and propose a toast. The guest laughed and said, "What a joke!" And young Master Shui's ancestor from the Zhang clan was a void immortal. And no matter how powerful the venerables, how could they compare to a void immortal? The young gentleman understood that no matter how great his name was, and no matter how famous he was, he still had to be humble in front of this gentleman. Suddenly, people looked up at the sky and asked in surprise, "What is that? And what's that moving across the sky?" At that moment, Lin flew in on his new animal and built his home over it. The locals were also shocked and asked, "What is this? Could this really be Kunpeng?" But it's an ancient god who disappeared long ago in Longmen. One of the boys told Mr. Shui that this was a great crossbow, and that Kunpeng was participating in the feast. And the Kunpeng was a rare creature that portended auspicious omens. But they told him how highly he valued the status of a divine being. And he was putting so much pressure on him. And it's not for nothing that this guy is the ancestor of the Shu family. He can have such connections with great people. The young gentleman told the man that he was a guest with close ties to their ancestors. His parents had once greeted him joyfully when he was born at this time of year. They had specifically decided to raise him as a literary figure. But later, his parents, having suffered too many consequences, politely turned him down. And now, looking back on it, he truly feels regret. The guests also said it was truly amazing. And it's no wonder the Shui family is so high up in the Murime, but they don't really know who this great man really is. After all, they've never seen him before. And apparently this man possessed courage, and was one of the Taoist friends who had traveled thousands of miles to come to the feast. But the master replied that he had received the connection. Lin said it was the Jiantian sect, or even the Jiantian order. And it could refer to a Taoist shoka, or sect. And the master is definitely already meeting them. People also said that this was truly the master. And the outside world believes that the Jiantian sect is an ancient sect. They were skeptical before, but now they truly believe it. One of the guests said that when Kunpeng was sent away, it was taken away and used. But what really lurks in its depths? The young master saw and replied that this was what he really was. But the people told the master that he was truly the best of all, and truly their master. The young gentleman asked what he wanted to know, what was going on, and asked them all to think carefully before acting. But the guest replied to Mr. Shui that no, he didn't understand anything. He hadn't heard anything either. But the master saw that this peck was too thick, and its skin was indeed thick. Suddenly, the ancestor of the Shu family appeared, and said that he didn't expect that the person who could operate the Kunpeng crossbow was actually a member of the Jiantian sect. The Shui family's ancestor looked at the animal and thought that if such divine beings could help him, it would be beneficial for the Shui family. And if it weren't for the concerns about the Jiantian sect, the recent upheavals in the Great Realm, and the fact that the Kunzhong man was nearby, he would have already intervened. The ancestor came out and told the boy that in fact, this great Lord Crossbow Light really brings light, really brings new breath to their Shu family. Suddenly, the system announced that it congratulated the master on completing the task, and all the divine abilities and methods he used would increase his training speed by 30 times. Lin thought that it didn't really count, and it seemed like if there was a chance to get support, that was a good thing. And even sending a blank required some respect. And Zhu must be having a hard time of it too, right? Lin looked and said that he expressed hopes on behalf of the Jiantian sect and wished that Qui-Gon would successfully overcome the disaster. The ancestor met them and asked them to come into the house. He said that in Fujian, Those stinking monks all knew that he was the old demon Baichuan. But today, people have a son, Yang Zhen, who looks completely different from those who came before.